Gather round, freaks. The pages are turning again. The book is opened, and the ghosts and slashers and demons and ghouls are flying from the pages. Once again, we open the grimoire of familiar killers. And hey, did you see this one?
The night is dark, and the air is still. The moon casts an eerie glow over the internet, where a group of curious individuals have gathered to discuss their shared fascination for the macabre. They hold in their hands a book with a foreboding presence, bound in flesh and inked in blood, a tome of horror that only opens its pages when a sacrifice is made. Within its ancient passages lie the secrets of the most infamous murderers and monsters of all time. Join us. But beware, for once this book is open, there's no telling what horrors may be unleashed. This is the grimoire of familiar killers.
Would you look at that? It's Thursday night. You know what that means. We're back.
I legitimately got startled by our spooky theme song there when it popped in. I forgot how intense it is.
It's great. Shout out to Nifty Neat Club for that. It's episode 126 of Hey, Did You See This One? And it's a new month. We've done it. We finished like a month. We're here. We're talking the Grimoire Familiar Killers 5. Summer Grimoire 2. So...
Summer.
Spring. Yeah.
Pretty sure there's snow outside right now.
Spring Grimoire. Episode 126. We've updated our graphics. As you may notice, we have a new guest. A guest we've never had on the show before. Former host of Naked News. Published author. Star of stage and screen. Am I missing anything? Current wrestling trainee. Bee Dawley, everybody. Bee Dawley, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Did I get all that correct?
You did get all of that correct. I work in entertainment in Canada. We have to have like our hands in all of the pies.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we're going to end up at McDonald's.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm almost there. I'm very close to applying.
You'll end up in IT like me, where I just fix computers all day and then play video games the rest
I'd
of the time.
rather work at McDonald's.
It is the spring grimoire, not the summer grimoire. We are talking this week about the Seed of Chucky. This was a film that was on that I watched and we all watched. Before we get to, it's legit. I liked it. Okay, well, just spoilers.
Also, you're not lying. That is a thing that happened. I think. I'm pretty sure we all watched it, and it was on.
I feel like this was a film that I watched is a perfect review for this.
Before we actually get to our review, our reaction, We do have some things that we do at the beginning of the show. Every week I put up like a piece of the poster zoomed in to sort of see if people can figure out what movie we're going to do for the week. This week I think I went too difficult because only a couple of people got it. So this is going to be brief, but this is fan guessing game. This is fan guessing game.
Congratulations! You have successfully guessed the correct answer, which is the answer you provided. Congratulations!
That's right, B. We have stings, and they're all great. This week, only 2 people actually got the movie right.
Holy moly!
I think I went too difficult because there's no like real consistent movie poster for this. There's like 3 different ones. I thought that the eye with the little sperms in it would be like pretty obvious because of the faces on the rest of the Chucky material. But in addition to only 2 people getting it, 2 of these people are former guests of the show. And one of them is Tim, who's been on the show 5 times and doesn't usually guess because he's like, I don't want to guess because I've got, the inside track sort of to know what's going on. But he said he has the longest one. So Tim Covey says, please share my congratulations for you guys for getting over 1,000 followers. And I ask those followers to be kind. Don't fight what you hate and instead defend what you love. And whatever you love it with all your might. So that's a pretty good...
Kind and wise words from Uncle Tim.
From old Uncle Tim. In addition to that, Tatiana, actually, who was on the show literally last week for her episode, Kubo and the Two Strings, she got it right. I messaged her for a message or a plug. She didn't get back to me because she doesn't really use social media, it seems like. So I just wanted to say, go to last week's episode and watch Kubo and the Two Strings, where we fawned and gushed over this movie for like 3 hours. It's a fantastic film. That movie looks like Citizen Kane, and this movie looks like Seed of Chucky.
Jackass 3D.
Jackass forever.
Yeah. This is Kubo, a movie where dolls make your heart melt. This is a movie where dolls melt.
Yeah, pretty much. And Matt Philp gave us a fantastic guess. I always include his guesses because they're always disgusting. Put the kids to sleep for this one. I'm very sorry about this. His guess was Skull Fucked 5. Now that's jizz in your eye.
Was there no colon?
So
really, he hasn't seen Skullfucked 5. His images from that are very different.
Yeah, and the plot is a lot more riveting.
It's not as funny though. That's it for that, I suppose. I will say that I'm gonna go easier next week, and also I think next week is like Halloween or something. So Friday the 13th, maybe. So if you're listening,
to give it away. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I can't remember. So there you go. There's your little hint for next week too. If you're watching or listening to this, you might be listening to this in like 2038 though. So like, I don't know.
When we finally break 2,000 followers.
Exactly. The next thing I want to just kind of talk about for a second is we did cross 1,000 followers on Twitch, which is crazy. We're still not the people, the amount of followers and the amount of people that watch don't really line up. So please follow us on all social media. If you're watching this, just go click buttons that say, hey, did you see this one next to it? You can find us everywhere. We're real easy to find. If you Google it, it's the first thing that comes up. That was by design because in this world of different names for things and people trying to have like the hippest, coolest name, it's either the hardest thing to find ever or like everybody's called the same thing. Hey, did you see this one? Very easy to find. Sorry, what was that, B?
I said branding.
Yeah. This all came from a joke, so it's funny that we're 126 episodes and 3 years later and still never changed it. Never changed the name. In addition to that, I want to shout out White Bat Audio as usual, who we use for our intro or sort of pre-show music. You can find them on YouTube. And that brings us to our brief history. Finally, a brief history.
A brief history.
So, B, if you didn't know, it's essentially the first time you saw this movie, the most recent time you saw this movie, if you have any facts about the movie. And, of course, it is a time-honored tradition around these parts to give our guests the first opportunity to give us their brief history. So why don't you tell us about your brief history with The Seed of Chucky?
So everyone has that one thing they're afraid of. Mine is any type of puppet. It started with Meet the Feebles when I was young. Peter Jackson made some weird stuff before he made Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
And it just instilled in me a terror of puppets. So of course, this is the movie that all of my friends make me watch because they like to watch me scream because I need better friends. And I think I saw this movie maybe a year after it had come out. Once you hit past 35, time blends together, so I don't know the year.
Yep.
It was like 2000. This came out in
2004.
2004, right? Yeah. So I think I saw it around 2006. And I remember being like, wow, this is too ridiculous for me to even fear it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that level. I've seen most of the Chucky movies, again, mostly against my will. But this one is hands down like the best, worst one. This is the Troll 2 of Chucky movies. This is the Room of Chucky movies. Like it's delightfully bad. Yeah.
It's different. It's so different from all the Chucky, even the ones that come directly after this.
It's a much more lighthearted romp,
yes.
Really.
Where you're kind of rooting for the dolls in the best way. Like usually you're rooting for the dolls because you want to see some interesting kills from a doll. But in this, you're like, I hope they figured this out. Yeah. I hope this weird family figures this out.
This doesn't have a lot of kills in it. Like it has like off-camera stuff, and like the kills are kind of like it's not the focal point. It's more comedy than horror, which I thought was very interesting. All right,
and they made that doll look so ugly.
I hate it. It's great.
So ugly.
Which one?
Glen.
Oh, he's Sweet Face. We call him Sweet Face.
We call him Shit Face.
No, gosh.
Or whatever Chucky calls him at the start.
His owner calls him Shit Bag or something.
Yeah. No, it's Shit Face, and that's why it's like, no, you're Sweet Face. All right, is that your history with this film, B, pretty much?
Yeah.
Okay. Steve.
It's not a long and storied history.
But
well, we now know that you're terrified of dolls.
Yeah, so you're going to come back for every doll movie we do from going forward. Steve, what's your brief history?
Me? Oh, man.
Well, of Chucky.
Those of you who've stuck with the show since the beginning, our first opening of the Grimoire of Familiar Killers, know that Chucky is my favorite. I, too, was terrified of Chucky when I was a younger, and it was just the idea, the concept of a killer doll frightened me. I remember being in my home at the age of probably 10 or 11 and hearing an advertisement for Chucky on the radio and getting scared. No visuals were needed. It was purely the voice of Chucky saying, "I'm Chucky, want to play?" And me just invoking
then you peed yourself like Glen.
Like Glen, yeah. I peed myself. My dad called me a shithead. No, he didn't do that. But I saw this movie, I think when it was on pay cable. It was there was a time, my early teens where movies would be on just the higher hundreds channels, and this was one of the ones that I watched at first. And I used to watch horror movies in a very particular way. I would have the horror movie on with the remote in my hand, and anytime something remotely spooky started to amp up, if anything was titillating in the slightest, I was like, I'm gonna go see what's on another channel, and maybe I'll come back and check this out later, after the guy is dead. But this one was one where I didn't have to do that because they show so much of Chucky and so much of Tiffany and so much of Glen that you're starting to like them as characters and you want to see what they're doing, and you're not necessarily scared of them. You're on the journey with them, which is something you don't get from. You maybe get it a little bit from Freddy here and there, but not really. This is the one that, as ridiculous as it is, you start to see a more well-rounded Chucky, and I love that. So I, for one of the first times in my life, was not flipping away from a horror movie while it was on TV, and I watched it in its entirety. Alone. There was no one around. I was by myself, guys. I was so brave.
Very proud of
I was
you.
very proud of
Thank
you,
you.
Steve.
Yeah, that's my brief history.
Great. Yeah, I can. It's similar for me. If you're new to the show, or I'll tell you, B, I couldn't handle horror movie at all. To the point that, like, if I thought a movie was going to have any sort of gore or I was afraid of like puking in movies for a long time, and just like weird stuff like that. And so I just like wouldn't even watch movies really. And I became like a TV person through those years. But with this movie, I did just watch it like yesterday as well. But I will say, similar to Steve, like when Shudder came out, there was always the free previews of Shudder, and I don't know if this one was on it, but Bride of Chucky, I would do that same thing where, oh, it's like Bride of Chucky's on, oh man, and then something, it looked like, you know, somebody's gonna get killed, and I flip away and turn back to it all the time. But over the years, through like watching The Walking Dead and more prestige dramas where they sort of ease you into that kind of stuff, I'm completely desensitized now, and that might just be because I'm like an adult too. But I will say that like watching this, I didn't watch it through the scope of like, ooh, I'm gonna get little scares, I'm gonna get little like, oh, it's gonna be gross, I'm gonna have to look away. I was like, this is like a parody of horror, even more so than Child's Play 3 or Bride of Chucky were. Like this is like so much of a parody it's not even. It's like just a comedy movie that just happens to have these like over the top kills. Why were his entrails steaming? You know, like
because the internal temperature of a human body is 98 degrees. What are you insane? Of course, maybe the AC on.
It was cold inside.
Yeah.
So it's just it was so goofy and funny, and I don't know, like it felt like a Trey Parker and Matt Stone movie almost. You know, just with how goofy it was.
I mean, it felt almost like a John Waters movie.
Almost like a John Waters movie, yeah.
And John Waters was there.
Yeah, he was there. He was the one helping out. He's like, you know what you should do? Make it more perverted.
Yeah,
and everyone's like,
half
screw
my face off.
Yeah.
I definitely see the like Matt Stone and Trey Parker, especially their early stuff like Cannibal the Musical. This is very much in that vein.
That's what I the whole time I couldn't help but think that these are the same kind of lowbrow jokes that you would see in like Basketball. One of my favorite movies.
I have a little bit to talk about once we get into the body of the episode with a couple of them real low hanging fruit jokes that they take a crack at. I was a tiny bit disappointed in Don Mancini more than once in this movie, but overall I think he pulled it off.
I'll tell you right now,
it was of the era,
that out of the 4 movies we're going to cover this month, this movie will undoubtedly cover non-binary issues a hell of a lot better than any of the other. Better than Freddy,
yeah.
better than Jason, and definitely better than Michael Myers.
Yeah,
who
I do have a bit to talk about on that as well. But yeah.
Okay, well, that's our brief history. Now let's go and talk about the director of this film in our next segment that I like to call Director Talk.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound. Speed. Action!
Let's shoot this.
Will it get old? I don't know.
Let's shoot this piece of shit with it censored. Makes me laugh. It's how many times have we heard it now? Like 20? It fucking makes me laugh every time. So
I listen to it every night before I go to bed, and every day when I wake up.
Yeah, because you recorded it, and you're insane person.
It's my alarm to go to sleep, and it's my alarm when I wake up.
Yeah, perfect. So the director of this film is Don Mancini, the creator of the Chunk Man.
The Chunkster.
We introduced this between the grimoires, so we haven't talked about Don Mancini a lot.
We've talked about him a bit because we've done more than one Chucky at this point.
That's true.
For those of us or whoever's listening doesn't know, Don Mancini is not only the creator of Chucky, but he has been involved heavily in every single Chucky product that has ever come out, which is harrowing and cool because he has so much input in the character that it truly is his character. You know, Wes Craven created Freddy Krueger, but he left for such a long time that his creation became perverted and he had to come back to save it. Jason has been in the hands of dozens of people, and
I like how you say Freddy Krueger became perverted. I don't know if you know about Freddy Krueger's backstory.
I didn't mean the character, I just meant the idea. But yeah, he was a pervert and he became even more perverted somehow. Michael Myers has been rebooted 100 times.
Michael Myers has its own MCU, the Michael verse, the Myers verse, where there's like branching paths because
there's retconned versions, there's completely deleted movies from the timeline. But Chucky has been, other than the remake that came out a few years ago, has been consistent almost entirely because of Don Mancini and him having the care and the love for the character that he wants to continuously work on it. And I think it's only gotten better. I don't know if you guys have seen the show. Oh wait, Jason, me and you watched the entire first season together.
We watched the first 7 episodes, 6 episodes. I have episode 7 still on my computer from, that was like right before COVID or like right when we could hang out again. But we watched.
Yeah, it was a COVID watch. I came over and we sat there and watched 6 episodes of Chucky, giggling and laughing the whole time. And your wife was like, "I can't watch this. It's too scary." I'm like, "It's funny. Come watch it with us."
A person falls face first on a butcher knife. It's pretty intense.
And I was like, "This is great."
Yeah.
But yeah, Don Mancini, I believe, both wrote and directed this movie. He did. And he has either written or directed almost all projects, which is, again, just great. The TV show deals with Chucky in a more interesting way, but it also has interesting characters. Usually Chucky movies don't have very interesting characters, and they, for the most part, either are written out and the characters from The Bride of Chucky, they do not appear in this movie, nor did we really need them to. And then everything beyond this, which we'll talk about once the next grimoire comes around, that's when he starts to really sort of pick into the lore and expand the lore and give us more of like, what does this voodoo curse mean and what can he do with it? And then that, continues to blossom until it eventually was turned into the TV show. I don't have much more to add about Don Mancini except he's a queer icon who I love and hope to maybe meet one day and tell him that I love him.
This it's interesting because the first 3 movies feel like their own thing, and then this movie and Bride of Chucky seem like their own trilogy, whatever you call it, movie and a sequel. Yeah. And then the next bit feels like a reboot of an in-universe reboot where I haven't seen Curse or Cult. I watched Cult of Chucky one night, like wasted, and my recollection is that it has a different tone. It actually goes back to feeling kind of like a horror movie again.
Yeah, one is sort of like a Escape from the Insane Asylum movie, and the other is a haunted house movie, basically.
Okay, so they made two hard comedies right in the middle.
Yeah.
And then you get to the show, and the show feels like you're watching like a Paramount Plus show or an AMC show, which just happens to have Chucky. And Devon Sawa shows up as a different character in every season, is what it also seems like.
Yeah, my first crush, Casper.
Mine too.
Yeah, he's Stan also in the Stan music video, which is great.
Oh, my second crush.
And interestingly enough, the character Stan in this is named Stan, and I'm wondering if that was on purpose because of the Stan thing. Because I think that music video would have come out around this time. No, like
Stan came out in like 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
years before, yeah.
the concept of a stan was already sort of being
But I
introduced.
don't think it was
It
used in
wasn't
the
used the way
way.
it is now, but I remember even hearing it back then a little bit. But then in like 2015, it became like vernacular. Anyway, that's a little language lesson from old Phillips. This has been director talk, I think. If you guys have anything to add about Don Mancini, if you look at his IMDb, it's unfortunate he never really strayed off the path. I'd like to see what else he could do because he's a pretty creative mind. But there is a lot to say about somebody that just stays and perfects one IP like that, because that doesn't happen very often. You don't get that. Imagine if Wes Craven had, or John Carpenter. Imagine if John Carpenter had stayed with Halloween through all of it. It would have been,
Yeah.
it'd be crazy. We do John Carpenter month every January, and I've seen them all now pretty much. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, he used Chucky to get to directing, right? He was a writer, and he also uses Chucky as a tool to tell stories that he wants to tell, right? He wants to tell an interesting story about a queer teenager. So he's like, oh, let me just see if I can get this Chucky made into a show, and then I'll use that as a catalyst to tell this story about my youth, basically.
right.
And so I think he is telling the stories that he wants to tell. He's just using Chucky to be able to tell those stories, which is smart and cool.
He mentions Chucky mentions this movie in like the second episode.
He does, yeah.
Because the kid's like, I'm gay and I don't know how to feel about like wanting to kiss my friend. He's like, I have a gay son. Well, he's not really gay.
Yeah.
He
says transgender.
Transgender, I think is the way you
sure.
say it now.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff. I'm also pretty sure that at the end of Bride of Chucky, the dolls were just obliterated. Like,
oh yeah,
right? Okay.
As they are at the end of every movie.
Because in this, they're that's why they're like, oh, we have Hollywood makeovers, which we will get to in the body of the episode, which I believe is coming up now.
Unless B, did you have anything to add?
Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
Here we are. We've done it. We've made it to the body of the episode. This is, of course, where we just talk about the movie. I'm going to sort of run down the plot of the movie, and as we go, we will make funny. And sorry, B, did you have anything else to add about Don Mancini?
No, not at all.
Sometimes you have to cut Jason off, or else he'll just roll over everything.
I will not.
I won't do that.
So I will say, though, that this movie doesn't really have a title drop, but
you do see the seed.
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
At the beginning of this movie, instead of like blood going down the screen,
Jesus.
it's a very viscous white fluid. We do see the seed of Chucky throughout this film. It is off-putting. It's off-putting that, spoilers, a living doll's semen can create a real baby with a woman's egg with a woman's ovary. I know how the sex
That's
works.
how the human body works, right? I mean, it is canonical that when they have the soul transferred into the body, that the body of the doll becomes partially human. It bleeds, it has organs, and it, I guess, can reproduce with another doll and a human, apparently.
Did you guys see Look Who's Talking, the first one?
Yes.
Remember,
that's more of a horror movie than this.
It really is,
I mean.
because it starts with an essay, sort of, I think, an implied essay. At any rate, we get a very similar 80s version of that in that movie, where while the credits are rolling, the song I Come Around by the Beach Boys is playing, and we see the sperms going through the canal talking. They all have personalities. And this was sort of a retread of that. I don't know if it was a reference, but it was definitely off-putting to see little Chucky sperms.
This movie is references. The whole movie is references. Everything that you see happening on screen is a reference to something.
That's fair.
Which is partially why I love it so much. You can just sit there and write a list of like, oh, that's from this is from that, this is from this. And sometimes
that's a lot of queer culture, though.
Yes. Yeah.
If you watch Drag Race, for example, everything is a reference to something.
Yeah. I
In all
mean,
of their, um, I will reference dumb shit like this all the time. But like if you watch one of their like musical episodes,
mhm,
it's literally just referencing jokes that have happened in episodes before that. And,
right. And
John Waters movies, it's the same thing. Like there's
yeah, I mean, it's always funny to take something that's well known, even something that's obscure, and turn it on its head, or make it a perverted version of what it is. Even
Ryan
if
Murphy. Yeah. Huh? What?
even like when you play Dungeons and Dragons with specific types of people or groups of people, it ends up just becoming an
When
endless
Steve Waters
stream.
DMs
Yeah, well,
Dungeons and
it will just
Dragons.
become an endless stream of references, and it's fun, and it's fun in a movie, and there's nothing wrong with it. If it's too much, when you do sort of like those superhero movies or
Or
parody
like
movies.
Scary Movie or
Yeah, I mean, even the first couple scary movies, I let them get away with it because there's an actual plot going on that makes sense and is coherent. But yeah, eventually down the line, it just becomes reference after reference after reference. But when you do it like this in this movie, where you kind of have to think about the reference a little bit before it clicks, it's smarter, and it's more fun, and it's fun to watch because you're kind of like, when's the next one going to come in? Am I going to get it? Am I going to miss one? Am I going to have to be informed by one of my friends what that's referring to? The whole movie is just kind of like a Where's Waldo for this, and I love it.
Yeah, it's not like the it's not like the Mel Brooks style, which was what Scary Movie, and then the preceding garbage that came after that, where it's just literally reference after reference. I like this better. This is why I brought up Trey Parker and Matt Stone, because this is almost like if a South Park episode, but it's Chucky as the main character because of all the. And I didn't even pick up on a lot of the references, just the ones I knew, obviously. But as
Don't
we
worry,
go,
Jason, I'll do
I
that
was
for
gonna
you.
say, as we go along, can you give me a heads up, because
I probably missed a ton of them, but yeah, I will. Anytime we come across one, I'll
excellent.
bring it up. Yeah.
So essentially, we're introduced to a British family, and we get the same intro that we get to a lot of Chucky movies, where a kid gets a doll, and we're seeing.
This is also a reference to the Chucky movies
Yeah.
themselves, because in the first two Chucky movies, specifically the second one, there is a lot of POV from Andy and from Chucky to sort of give you a confusion as an audience member as to whether you're seeing Andy or Chucky through their POV. The movie's trying to trick you a little bit to be like, maybe Andy's killing people. um, Whereas this movie is trying to do the same thing because you're not sure who this is yet, right? For those of us who've seen The Bride of Chucky, we're going into this being like, is this Chucky? Is this Tiffany? Or is this the seed of Chucky, whose name we don't find out for like 40 minutes?
Well, to add to my brief history, I didn't see like I only saw the Seed of Chucky doll, the Glenda, like on Sunday, because I thought it was a baby. I thought it was a baby that was doing killing, not like
Yeah,
not like
this
a
movie
12-year-old who looks like the worst combination of Chucky and Tiff imaginable.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of cute. You don't like dagger teeth? Come on,
I don't. Where did the
guys.
dagger teeth even come from?
He's evil.
They definitely look like their mother more.
But he's got that hair.
He's got that hair though, which
Yeah.
gets past too.
I think it's the hair and the lack of eyebrows for me.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And his little twitchy eye.
That's what's creepy about it, is there's no eyebrows. And
Yeah.
even Tiffany's are painted on. Also, the end of the impregnation sequence, terrible animation, I should add, but it is setting the tone, right? Because it's funny. Like you're watching it, and it's like a horse race to the egg, and it ends with the same scream that the end of The Bride of Chucky concluded with, which is like a horrifying monster bat sound, and that's how this movie begins. Yeah.
Yeah, and I honestly was like, oh, the Chucky doll is going to get reintroduced somehow, because I haven't seen this. I don't know the plot of the movie. When you guys saw it for the first time, did you did your brain immediately go to like, oh, this must be the seed of Chucky, or were you just had no idea either? Because horror movies like to do those misdirects.
I think by the time I watched it, I had seen trailers and clips and
Okay.
whatnot, so that was spoiled for me.
So
I remember thinking, because I had seen The Bride of Chucky at this point, um, that Chucky was going to be reborn from his own wife. Like I thought it was going to be some sort of crazy perversion where Chucky is born again. I didn't
I'm
realize
my
it
own
was.
grandpa.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm my own dad now. Uh, but that didn't happen. But I can't remember if I was just thinking that when I heard the release of the movie was coming, or if I thought it when I was going into the movie itself. I was a child. I can't remember. Um, Actually, no, I was a
Yeah,
teenager.
you were like,
I was a year away from graduating high school.
yeah,
What
you
am
were
I
like
talking about?
15, weren't you?
Yeah. I was a dumb teenager. How about that? Um,
I was
so
like
yeah, I
19
can't.
when this movie came out,
Yeah,
so
I don't know. And you were still scared of it. You were still watching with the
pretty
blankets.
much. I don't know. I could party and get wasted, but I couldn't handle a horror movie. It was very weird.
Yeah, I think actually my brief
Well,
history
maybe
was
that's
The
why you were
Bride of
getting
Chucky.
wasted.
Yeah,
With the fact that you couldn't handle horror movies.
yeah,
Pushing
to deal with
down
the trauma.
those thoughts. Honestly, I've talked about this on the show, and I'm pretty sure that I watched RoboCop when I was like 7, and that movie just broke something in my head. So
Yeah.
I couldn't like. Most people don't watch horror until they're a bit older at like a birthday party when they're like 10, and then they can sort of make sense of what's happening on the screen. But I saw RoboCop, the man version of RoboCop, get shot in the dick 50 times, and it just broke my brain. Also,
Yeah.
the ghoul at the end, the
No,
toxic
the
man.
toxic waste man. Um, so I do want to bring up the first reference, I suppose, which outside of the reference to its own, prequels, this entire sequence feels a lot like a reference to Psycho. We've got the shower sequence with
Yeah.
the mom.
Yes. Yeah.
Even the shot where he stabs the father and he falls over the banister is super reminiscent of the scene in Psycho where the detective is getting attacked and he's falling down the stairs. They did similar camera techniques and tricks, except all from a POV, which is pretty cool and interesting. I think this whole sequence also could be a reference to Halloween, the Michael Myers POV through the mask at the very beginning of that. But it's also pretty wonderful, I think. The fact that they chose to do it as it's not a true oneer, but it is, more or less a oneer.
The house had a weirdness to it too. Like the cake was like wrong. You notice when he walks up to the cake, the like layers are all weird. It was just almost kind of like Hitchcockian in general. Just
And
had like a weirdness.
it feels like, you remember in the sequel, or sorry, the second Chucky movie, everything in that house felt perspectively off.
Exactly,
The
yeah.
placement of the furniture, and it's just meant to be sort of like a twisted, imaginative version of a house in a way that a child might envision it or remember it.
I was
right?
thinking of the kill in I forget if it's the second one or the third one, the second or third Chucky, where he's stalking the like businessman in his office, and he kills him with the golf club.
Oh yes, where we get our first "Don't fuck with the Chuck."
Yeah. Don't fuck with the Chuck.
Yeah.
That sequence is great. It still had like some horror to it, but it was still funny, and still it had that weird. It reminds me of the movie Toys with Robin Williams, which we covered on the show. Have you ever seen that, Bee?
Yes.
That has a lot of weird perspective-y weirdness to it. Giant toys and small.
Immediately
doors.
when you said that, I just envisioned him with his jacket full of smoke, and he's like, "It's a smoking jacket." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that movie's good. I like that
It's
movie."
weird.
I had a question here for the both of you, which was, do we think that this is a real vision, or do we think that this is a dream? Like, is this just him dreaming about killing because he has something locked away inside of him, or is this something that actually happened?
Go ahead, B.
This was actually something that I was thinking about last night, because I was trying to figure that out myself. I think I came to the conclusion that it was just a dream. Just because it seems so completely out of character, and he seems so shocked by finding out that his parents are murderers, that like if that was something that had happened, like that would be a memory that would unlock.
Right.
And he just seems so timid and afraid of his captor at the beginning, and if he had that ruthless killer in him, like I was waiting for that guy to die horribly.
Yeah, me too. And he never does, which is disappointing.
A little disappointed. Like out of everybody, he got off scot-free.
Yeah, why
That's
him?
the guy you let live. Really?
There should have been a post-credit sequence where Glenda kills that guy.
Goes back and just takes him out. That's a good.
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say that's a good point, B. I agree with you fully. I think that if they had introduced the fact that they switch personalities frequently, like if it wasn't unlocked in the movie, if we saw it happening like right away, I'd think that maybe that was a vision. That would require this movie to have like more plot and more exposition-y kind of stuff going on, but the movie just kind of goes to the next thing. It doesn't feel like there's a lot more going on than what we're seeing. So I think I would have to say Dream as well.
So, I mean, the only thing is that, this isn't true gender dysphoria, right? In the sense that we understand it today, it's more of like a dissociative identity disorder where he has two personalities in his mind. So you could potentially think that he's dreaming of a moment that the other personality had lived out, from my perspective anyway. But the guy, the shitty man who has him in a cage, also says that he found the doll in a graveyard, which is where he was born. So I think it's a dream as well, but it's a dream not that he is having. It's a dream that Glenda is having, and more like a fantasy than it is a dream, right? Like she wants to kill people because Glenda is the killer, right? And he's like the sweetie pie who doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't kill anybody until Chucky at the very end, right? Everyone else that is killed is via Glenda.
And Chucky pushes him. Chucky pushes him through the whole movie.
Yeah, come on.
Come on, you know you want to do it.
A regular chip off the old block. Yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to ask that because it is a little bit in the air, but I don't know, maybe he went back to the graveyard. Also, he has a British accent and they have British accents. Does he dream in British accents? Did the guy who owned him have a British accent? I can't remember.
Yeah, because they were in England or the UK.
So if he found him in a graveyard in the UK, it wouldn't be the same graveyard because the graveyard is in the Bride of Chucky when they're like cross country USA.
He was a traveling ventriloquist.
I guess he could have found it in the United States. Yeah. There's no answer, guys. There's no answer to the question.
There would have to be like another half hour of a movie for there to be.
Yeah, he mailed, because I was like, who mailed him to them? Did he mail himself? Maybe Glenda mailed herself to this family specifically to get in there to commit murder.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about, because there's some moments in this movie that they almost look at the camera and say, "Don't worry about it." Like, which I'm not too worried about.
No, I like to be like, but was it real?
I've got a prime example of that to what you were saying just now, the whole mailing part. He goes for the daughter, then pisses himself, wakes up. We're introduced to this the side chauffeur circus, like you said, B. He's like a ventriloquist where he's aware that the dummy can talk. The dummy hasn't learned. So we're not starting at Chucky, like a man being put in a Chucky's body. This is an entity that's just been self-aware since it got turned on.
A child born of evil. Yes.
So it's always been able to do this. So it doesn't know not to fall over when the lights come on, like in Toy Story kind of thing. Chucky knows how to just be like, they actually do it in this mode, or like doll mode or whatever.
He calls it Barbie mode.
Barbie mode.
Oh shit, Barbie mode.
He's revealed himself to this guy. They go out, they do their act. He's literally trapped in a cage like a rat, then with a rat, and then the rat loves him because Glen has the kindest soul imaginable.
He's a Disney princess. Yeah. He can talk to the rat. Are we not going to question this weird circus? Like it's like some circus for bikers. Like have you ever seen the movie AI, where it's just like people who want to see robots get torn apart? It reminded me of that kind of.
But they're going to see a ventriloquist.
Yeah. Like what kind of gang is like, we gotta go check out this ventriloquist. He's got a talking dummy that he doesn't even need to put his hand inside.
Their boy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Probably their boy, and
it's just a small community.
Murder.
Yeah.
And running drugs. Everybody's got to have a hobby.
And his is ventriloquism.
That hobby is ventriloquism.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not. He can't do ventriloquism. He's just scamming the system.
He found the doll and he's like, man, you know what? I've always loved ventriloquism. This is my big break.
And maybe he tried real theater, like real stages, but they were like, that doll needs to get out of this building. He's
like an actual thespian who like fell from grace. He used to work on the stage. You know, he was well known for his portrayal of Macbeth, but then he found this doll. He got really into drugs and alcohol, and here we are.
Look at that guy. That guy was crew.
That's true.
I've done enough theater. That is crew.
Yeah, he was in charge of the sandbags.
Yeah,
they called him Sandbag.
Sandbag.
He was the sandbag. Yeah, they called him Sandbag. All right.
I wrote a note that says, I hate looking at it, but the animatronics are dope. The animatronics in this movie are next level. Actually, good, yeah. I don't want to gloss over this. I want to go in order. We're not at the part where he actually travels yet, because then it cuts over to Santa Claus walking through a graveyard. Is Seed of Chucky a Christmas movie?
I don't know when it came. Hold on, let me just double check that.
I mean, in the same vein that like
it came out in November, so yes.
Batman Forever is a Christmas movie. Was the reference that I was making, but I don't think it is because it's such a small bit.
But what I mean to say is it came out around the time that Christmas movies come out,
great.
So that's probably why they threw it in there.
Yeah. It's kind of like how in Showgirls, there's like that 1 second where it's like, it's Halloween. They're on like a patio and it's like there's Halloween stuff. That's what it reminded me of.
Also, Showgirls is a horror movie. Just like
yeah. It's a harder horror movie than this is.
Really? Because I found it aspirational.
I mean, there are aspirational elements for certain, but there's a lot of horror.
If you cut out elements of the third act, it's a fantastic hero story.
Mm-hmm.
If you leave those parts in,
make sure to buy a lot of pearls in bulk. That's all.
Yep. Yeah. Seed of Chucky confirmed Christmas movie. Right. So we see this Santa Claus going across a graveyard, and Chucky's like laying there next to a gravestone, and then Tiff shows up with a slinky, chokes him. And then Chucky just chops the shit, just stabs the shit out of him, which I thought was great.
Santa Claus played by
Jason Fleming.
Yeah, exactly, Jason Fleming, who is like quite a popular and famous actor now. I don't know how big he was at the time, but he was still in stuff.
Yeah, I think this was around when like Red Violin came out and
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah.
He played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I know that movie gets shit, but Stuart Townsend and Shane West are both in it. And
we are considering doing that on the show at some point. So if you would like to come back and talk
I have so much to say.
Okay.
I have a whole Alan Moore thing that we can get into.
Very good.
Probably doing an Alan Moore month. And what's great about that is a lot of people cut their teeth on this show by coming and doing a fucking god-awful movie. Then you get used to the show, and then you can come back and talk about something you want to talk about.
You can talk about the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, an amazingly good movie, question mark.
It's a movie.
It's definitely was released in theaters.
It was one of the first Blu-rays, as I recall, so a lot of people had it. That's the biggest thing I remember about that. But no, it's this is all not real. It's a movie set, and we find that out because Chucky just keeps stabbing and saying the line. Did I write what he says? It's like, "I'm killing you," whatever. And the veil is removed, and it's a movie set, and basically the animatronic is like busted, and the animatronic director.
I guarantee you that the seed of the idea for this sequence was that Don Mancini was like, I want to have Chucky kill somebody in a Santa Claus costume at some point and say some sort of like, fuck you, Chris Kringle, or like chastise Santa Claus for not being real. And, he was able to fit it into this story in a way that made sense without it being like he's killing the actual Santa Claus. And I tip my hat to that because that is funny and fun. It's fun, guys.
Is Wes Craven's New Nightmare this month, or is it
No,
part 6, or is it like
that's
part
part
9?
9,
Okay.
brother.
Because that's what I was thinking of. Was this whole element of the movie like a reference to the New Nightmare thing, where it's like,
Well,
Freddy in the real world,
or Scream 2,
or Scream 2,
and just Scream in general,
Scream,
right? Like
yeah,
where
all
there's like this whole
self-referential.
meta aspect
Yeah.
to it. Scream 3, I think they're literally making a movie.
oh,
at
that's
that
right.
point.
It was Scream 3 where they were making the movie.
Yeah, and like Jay and Silent Bob show up
Yep.
for 1 second to be like, whoa. But yeah, it was very popular. I mean, that's what The Bride of Chucky felt like to me, was like, let's add the meta aspects to the movie, have Chucky be very aware of horror as a genre, and him realizing like, I'm a horror monster in like real life. At one point, he even says like, if this was a horror franchise, it would take at least 3 or 4 sequels to really flesh out what I'm doing here. And that lives on in this movie, right? Where we're deep into Hollywood now, and it gets very playful and fun, especially with Jennifer Tilly playing 2 roles and being so self-referential and poking fun at herself on both ends of the spectrum. Like, there's the fact that they both keep referring to one another's voice as like the voice of an angel. She spoke to me with the voice of an angel. Like, you're like, oh my God, this is so funny. I don't want to get into it too much, but we're kind of there now.
We are there.
We're being introduced.
Is the reveal that Jennifer Tilly is playing herself in this movie. I made a note that she's talking about how she's sad she can't get roles. She keeps missing out on roles to Julia Roberts. This movie exists in a really bizarre universe where Martha Stewart is going to jail or getting executed.
No, she's going to be executed.
And Britney Spears is just in the Hollywood Hills, just like,
she dies.
Yeah.
Britney Spears is murdered in
Spoilers.
this movie.
While they're listening to a style parody of 50 Cent, while she's listening to a style parody of Britney Spears. It's so fucking weird. But
that's not even like the research I did today. I was like, wow, this movie could have been absolutely insane if Dan Mancini got every single thing that he wanted for it. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
But the thing I noticed about Jennifer Tilly, I've never really watched her. I haven't seen Bound. I'm going to watch Bound. I remember Bound. I've seen screenshots from Bound.
Bound was my queer awakening.
Did it change things for you a little bit?
I don't know that it changed so much as it cemented.
Yeah. Gina Gershon is like my crush from when I was a kid.
And you haven't seen Bound?
And I haven't seen Bound. I think it was on like Showcase occasionally, so I might have seen parts of it, if you know what I mean. But I don't think I've like said.
Jesus.
Okay, well, I was a kid.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
We all know what you mean.
You all did it too.
We're all just thinking of that opening sequence with all the seed.
Yeah, I'm still hung up. But that I do want to go watch it because I think it would be interesting to see. I fully believe that this is based on some form of reality where she just couldn't get parts because they kind of saw her in a certain light. I also feel like her.
I mean, it's also like a reality. Like it is her career, right? Like she did have a hard time. Like she was Oscar nominated.
That's what I mean.
For what was it? Bullets Over Broadway, I think. And she is a good actor. She's a very good actor.
But I want to say her acting style reminded me a little bit of Keanu Reeves' acting style.
Yeah, but so this is the thing about actors like this is you place them in the correct setting, the correct script with the correct director and the correct writer, and you have a nugget of gold that you can do anything with.
I wasn't
Keanu
saying
Reeves
it
is
was
the
negative.
proof of that, right?
Yes, I wasn't saying it was a negative. her line delivery.
You were. I know you
I
were. How
wasn't.
dare you? Take it back.
I have a lot of respect for Jennifer Tilly after this movie. In fact, I think that her scream queen ability is second to none. She was so good in the parts that mattered. She was great in Bride of Chucky, like at the beginning when she's just I'm Tiffany. That was all great. That's good stuff. I just wanted to point out that she has that her cadence is very Keanu Reeves, and I say that she could play a similar kind of character to a Keanu Reeves. She's almost like the counterpart. Unfortunately, in Hollywood,
whenever I watch John Wick, I'm like, Jennifer Tilly should have been in this.
Yeah, I want an all female
as
cast,
John Wick,
all female cast John Wick with Jennifer Tilly. But unfortunately, in Hollywood, obviously, over the years, men will be utilized even if they're not the best actors, and women get cast to the side, which I think is awful. And I think that Jennifer Tilly didn't get a fair shake because she's been a consistent actor my whole life, but you don't really see her in very much unless she's the butt of a joke.
Well, I mean, this is where we can once again kind of nod in the direction of Don Mancini, because he loves Jennifer Tilly so much that he has put her in the extended Chucky universe to the point that she is once again playing multiple roles in the TV show that's coming out, or that's out. And, if he didn't like Jennifer Tilly as an actor, he didn't have to bring her back for this movie. It could have just been Chucky and his boy. But he likes Jennifer Tilly, and he likes Jennifer Tilly so much that Jennifer Tilly is a character in his universe, his Chucky universe. Jennifer Tilly exists not only as a horror figure, but as herself. And it's, again, fun. It's all fun.
I also didn't know. I may have known at one point that she plays herself in this, but I forgot or didn't know, and I was genuinely surprised. I wrote, what the fuck? Jennifer Tilly's playing herself?
Mm-hmm. Also, I mean, we don't have to gloss. We can talk about it briefly, but we also have her immediately poking fun at the unrealistic body standards of Hollywood, which is fun. And real, right? She's sneaking chocolate bars, and her assistant comes up and being like, I got a slim quick or whatever. And she's just like, fuck off. And, they constantly are making fun of her weight and stuff. And she obviously looks absolutely beautiful in this fucking movie. So there's it's just
well,
shitty.
This was 2004 where that was
considered fat.
Yeah.
That was considered fat in 2004. I mean, we had America's Next Top Model happening, and just the fat shaming
right
everywhere.
And there's a ton of it in this movie, but it's also done in a way that is critical of the idea of it, right? Which is, once again, fucking nod to Don Mancini to call it out, right? Being like, this is Hollywood, this is so shitty. And somebody like Jennifer Tilly, who is Oscar nominated, has been respected by the Academy and her peers, is not, like you said, Jason, getting a fair shake, and she's having to play these scream cream. Yeah, that was the alternate title.
The
of this
seed
movie.
of Chucky, the scream cream.
Yeah.
Gross.
And she's having to play these roles that she doesn't necessarily get to, flex her acting chops on. Oh no. Anyway, I think you guys get the point I'm making over here. Let's just say it again. Scream cream.
How many minutes are we into the show?
That was the name of her diet supplement or whatever. It's called Scream Cream.
Which would have been a funny.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
And then we get her, essentially projecting her opinion, but is actually just her own existence towards Julia Roberts, which is how she got the part? She got the part by sleeping with the director. That's what I think, at least. And everyone's like, that's not true. Julia Roberts is very talented.
She would, Julia Roberts at this time was still in stuff all the time.
She was the top of her game at this point, right? 2004.
Remember Entertainment Tonight? It still exists, but remember how much it was just on a TV when you were, 20?
It was on every night, wasn't it?
It's still on every night at the same time.
God.
I always see, when I watch Survivor, I always see it ending, but it just talks about reality TV stars and influencers mostly. There's no it's not like a TV magazine show anymore. It's just internet garbage. which sucks because when I was a kid, I remember watching Entertainment Tonight, and you'd see trailers and music video premieres. And
Jason was dancing around his living room like.
What's that be? Sorry.
Behind the scenes on set stuff for movies. And
that was the most interesting aspects of it to me.
A whole episode that's
definitely
behind the scenes of Jurassic Park. I remember they did that.
Yeah, it spawned my my love for DVD extras and stuff, and like binging like 6 hours of the special features of a Ridley Scott movie where they literally put like 5 times the length of the movie and just behind the scenes footage and like concept artists and like people building sets, and you're just like, this is so cool. It's like magic. It's like a magic fun world. I didn't particularly care about the lives of celebrities, like, which this movie is also kind of showing is a farce, and it's fake and gross.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, freaky baby Chucky sees fake Chucky on TV and notices they both have a made in Japan logo on their arm, or not a logo, a stamp.
As much as it's problematic to continuously have like the sting of like a Japanese sort of like sounding sting every time you see it, it is kind of funny. It's a little bit, yeah. It was, and then it's also revealed that he speaks fluent Japanese. Like he went out of his way to learn Japanese because he thought that he would be from Japan.
Yeah, that feels like a Don Mancini like being cool about the source material. Trey Parker, Matt Stone would hit you over the head with a lot more of the like obscenities of that sort of a thing. Mm-hmm. So at least Don Mancini has the foresight. He was very ahead of his time throughout all the Chucky movies with how he treats different marginalized peoples. Like I said, like we have essentially a non-binary character in this who is treated with respect in a fucking B horror movie.
Not only is he treated with respect, he's like immediately accepted by his parents.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's like no hesitation other than the fact that one of them wants him to be one and one of them wants to be the other, but they're also both open to him picking whichever one he wants, which is pretty cool. And like even Chucky is like, he's disappointed that he's like, you're a boy. God, he like taps his knife like, okay, it's fine. He's still happy to have a child.
I'll be back in 1 sec.
Yeah, which is like, I think that's something that comes completely from the fact that Don Mancini has a queer perspective and he is more aware of respecting people outside of the norm or people that are considered mainstream, and even people of other cultures. Like he knows what it's like to be part of a marginalized group and a group that can be, downtrodden or punched down towards, which it gives you a perspective that a lot of horror movies don't have. Chucky is a killer of women before he is turned into a doll. And then after that, he kills because it's, like he says in the movie, a hobby. It helps us relax at the end of the day. But he's not specifically killing women anymore. And he's not killing people because they're like a flamboyant gay guy, or he's not killing, and there's not like a ton of, charged racial stuff going on in the movies. It's just, he just kills people.
He does the killing.
I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it was interesting to see. I was a little bit disappointed when they went for like the queer person is crazy. They have they're a crazy person. They're split personality. Like it kind of felt a little bit samey once we got to that point, but it was treated at least with some respect. It wasn't. They never made a big deal about the fact that he had 2 different personalities. They were just like, oh, okay, well now we have this to deal with, rather than it being like, oh my God, he's insane. Like, of course, like we're murderers.
And apart from the like pulling down the doll's pants to see what's there, they didn't make a lot of gender-based jokes,
mm-hmm.
which I definitely appreciated, because that could have gone. It was 2004.
It could have felt really stale really quick, and I was surprised.
It could have aged like milk.
Yeah. And like out of a lot of the stuff in this movie, that stuff actually doesn't age as poorly as I thought it was going to, because it's been a while since I've watched this movie, and it still felt, considering it's 2004,
Yeah.
it felt respectful for the era, for like of what was going on with this kind of subject matter in that time. It could have been horrible, but then,
Oh yeah.
people like John Waters would not have wanted to be involved if they were, again, like punching down towards things that were considered to be um different or weird at the time.
I do wonder if this movie, a lot like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which took 25 years to sort of be picked up as a queer icon movie. I wonder if this will have that resurgence down the road.
Well, I think unfortunately there are people that don't like it because of the fact that it's treated as uh, a specific type of mental disorder, which it isn't, right? Like gender dysphoria is not a split personality or a dissociative identity disorder. It's just somebody is feeling a certain way, um, physically and mentally. Whereas like this is like, no, it's a boy and a girl are trapped inside the same body, and we have to decide which one we're gonna go inside.
The story was told like that, obviously, to sort of like for the dumbs, for the
It is for the dumbs,
the regular moviegoers.
It is a
who
dumbed
are
down
like,
version, and I guarantee you that Don Mancini was well aware of what he was doing. When he
absolutely,
did
and that's
this.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Where Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is so subtle that it took 25 years to like decode it, unless you were a gay man or
Was
woman.
it subtle?
Well, no. Well, but if you're just like a horror fan in
That movie is gay.
1988,
That is a gay movie.
you're like, oh well, he just
I don't know if you remember, Jason. There's a scene in the second Friday Nightmare on Elm Street where he goes to a literal gay leather bar and finds his gym teacher there, and his gym teacher takes him to the showers to whip him in the showers.
Right.
It's a gay movie.
It's a pretty gay
Very
movie.
gay. Yeah.
It's I think that it was handled differently, and because of the era, that's why I wonder that if in 25 years from 2004, there will be a little bit of a resurgence.
I think that the TV show is doing a little
Yeah.
bit of cleanup for
Okay.
this movie, right? Like it's set the table here, and now Chucky is able to express a little bit more clearly and a little bit more with like a light touch what they meant to do with this movie, which is good, but you have to go watch a whole season of a TV show to get that sort of like payoff, which is good if you like Chucky.
Devin Sawa.
or Devin
Yeah.
Sawa.
Plus, Devin Sawa's there. He plays multiple characters.
But
Does
if
he
he-
play the president or something?
Yeah, in like the new season, I saw a trailer.
Yeah.
He's like the president now. But I just to go back to like the 2004 thing. If you look at a movie like, I think American Wedding came out this year. The American Pie like 4.
Right.
And if you go back and watch that, that is aged like milk. I guarantee they say like the R slur in it. It's probably all homophobic jokes. But at the time, might have been good for a laugh, for shock value. But going back and watching movies from this era that are similar comedies with similar style jokes, they're not going to hold up. That's what we were talking about at the top of the show, right? Like you're gonna hit.
Well, that's because we were in the year of our edgelord, 2004.
Yeah.
We're all similar ages, and we all are of the 80s. We all lived through the 90s, and we all lived through the early 2000s. Those were our formidable years. We we're a certain generation, and this movie played to my sensibilities being of that generation. I could see some like 14-year-old watching it now and being like, this is all so offensive.
This is problematic. Yeah. I agree. And that's me watching it today. Looking through a modern lens, I was like, I can see how this would be considered problematic now, but I'm able to sort of look past that and view it with the mindset that like everything else in 2004 was so anti-progressive and was just like shoving homophobia, transphobia, sexism, all of it just down your throat in every single comedy. It was always just like vile, especially like growing up at that time. It was like sometimes painful to go to the movies and like have my friends like belly laughing at things where I'm like, ooh, this is not fun.
I haven't come to
I don't like this.
terms with this, let alone am able to see people make fun of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
I think another great thing that Seed of Chucky did is everything was done with such a heavy dose of camp
Yeah.
that it's hard to take even some of the more problematic stuff to heart.
Yeah. It's almost like if they were to try to do it appropriately and have us be held by the hand by Tiffany and Chucky and explore what it is to be in the world of gender dysphoria, it might have been like too much for the movie to handle or to deal with appropriately. So it's easier for them to just be like, no, it's going to be extreme. It's going to be an extreme bend. We're going to have him literally switch to a woman and a man throughout the movie and have them have very distinct personalities attached to those two things. And again, like I've said about everything else, it does end up feeling more fun than it does problematic.
Mm-hmm.
So just to move the plot ahead a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting into some deep shit over here,
that's what
guys.
we've been
Holy
doing on this
moly.
show lately. Like for the last few episodes, it happened a bunch during the Leica month, but it's just that when we hone in on some of these like real issues, we get some stuff done. Which
As goofy as the movie is, you can tell that this movie is very personal to him as a director and a writer.
That's why I'm wondering if it's going to come back around one day as like being like this.
But it's also very fun. He also is having fun while he's doing it, right? He's telling a story and he's having a good time doing it.
Yeah.
Have we introduced Redman yet? I can't remember.
We're about to. So,
okay.
The guy chases after the doll. He gets on a garbage truck, I think. We go over to...
Oh, yeah, I wrote down, baby escapes on the tiniest garbage truck ever made. It's just a truck.
I also wrote at this point, it's like, why is the score like Danny Elfman or Alan Silvestri? Like, why is it so good?
I can explain.
I want to know.
They have the map, right? Like the Indiana Jones style map of the plane. He somehow gets on a plane. We don't need to worry.
That's that first thing that I said earlier because I thought we were further ahead. I wanted to know. That's when I knew the movie didn't take itself too seriously. We're just going to see things happen.
Well, this is also our next big reference, which I love. It's literally the exact shot from Bram Stoker's Dracula that came out, about 10 years earlier of, Gary Oldman's eyes floating over the map, and then Keanu Reeves. It's in the Lost Pages, a video that I sent you, Jason, where the eyes of Dracula are watching Keanu Reeves as he travels the country, and in this, it's Chucky's eyes are watching Glen's travel. It's so funny, and I'm sure that's also referencing like earlier Dracula movies and stuff as well. But like, they're even like within the context of the movie, like Chucky is not sentient right now. So it's like, what's happening here? Is Chucky like a spirit? What's happening? Again, it's just fun and funny stuff. And if that wasn't there, that Indiana Jones map travel sequence would not have been as fun. The eyes being there is funny. It's very funny. And again, it's on the checklist of like, what other references are we going to get?
At this point, Jennifer Tilly's reading for the Virgin Mary because Redman, known writer director Redman, star of How High with Method Man of the Wu-Tang Clan. He's writing a movie about the Virgin Mary, and he's looking for somebody to play the Virgin Mary. Jennifer Tilly thinks this might be a good opportunity to, kick up her career a notch, get that Oscar win. He goes to read for her. Redman is like, whoa, I'm looking at boobs right now, and that's all he can really wrap his head around. She's giving it her all. She thinks this is...
I think she's like purposefully hamming up this sequence, right? As an act, like Jennifer Tilly IRL is like making this hammy, which is very fun because it's like a bunch of biblical.
Known for now, like more.
Now she is, but like she's a real actor who knows how to turn on the chops,
We get a reveal here that she's like, I'm not doing this. I'm leaving. She kind of gets it in her head. Maybe I'll, use my feminine.
Well, he says, I think I'm gonna go with my other choice. And she's like, what? And he's like, Julia Roberts. She
Roberts.
immediately is like, fuck.
I wrote,
Also, she says the funniest thing. She says, "Thank you, Mr. Man."
yeah. Can I call you Mr. Man?
Yeah.
Or do we call you Red?
Can I call you Red? Yeah.
I wrote this is a strange narrative because this at the beginning of the movie I didn't realize that it was all references and stuff. Like I didn't know what the movie was gonna be. I was expecting for none of this to be handled like gracefully. I thought that it was just going to be a bunch of schlocky, offensive nonsense. But when you look at this movie from a bird's eye view and you think about what it accomplishes, it's actually it all works together as one like coherent like single thing. But when you're in it for the first time, you're like, what am I watching?
Well, it's also, it's once again a commentary on Hollywood and how Hollywood works, which is gross, which is she is now deciding, okay, I have to do this. I can get this role. The way that I'm going to do it is exactly what I said earlier, which is Julia Roberts slept with the director to get that role. So I'm going to sleep with Redman to get this role.
I think when the assistant, sorry, go
I
ahead.
mean, if that's legitimately what you're thinking, it's like, well, if Julia Roberts can do it,
then I can do it. Yeah. And, in defense of Jennifer Tilly, the character in this movie, it's like, if she has the same background as Jennifer Tilly in real life, then she definitely has what it takes to play the character. But because of that getting fingered scene and bound, she's now bound to that type of role, right? There's a dirty lens has been cast over her as an actor. And we brought up Showgirls earlier. That movie killed the career of
Elizabeth Berkley.
Yeah, Elizabeth Berkley, and it's for the same reason, right?
Elizabeth Berkley literally disappeared until she showed up on the Saved by the Bell reboot. From what I can tell.
So here's something that I was definitely thinking while listening to Jennifer Tilly talk about how Hollywood worked. How much do you think maybe this was a reference to what was going on with Weinstein and that sort of thing?
Well, Harvey Weinstein would have been the guy right now in 2004.
Yeah, exactly. And it was an open secret in Hollywood. And I'm wondering if some of this was a dig.
Because
it probably was.
His production company was making like every other movie at this time too.
Well, like Miramax was a company that was known to produce products that would always be in contestant for Oscars and other awards, right?
They were almost like the A24 of the era too, where if you knew a Miramax movie was coming, you were like, this is going to be awesome. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think anytime that any movie is making reference to this kind of stuff, they're talking about a real thing, right? It's not just for fun. It's like, this is how it works. And I don't know.
There were points where it almost seemed very pointed.
Yeah, for sure.
Talking about someone in particular when I was watching this movie, and maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but I was like, you clever motherfucker.
I don't think that there's a point in time where you have to really read between the lines for these kind of things. And there's like no point in taking it with a grain of salt. It's like, no, that they are talking about Weinstein and his ilk, right? Like, these are the people that controlled the award seasons and controlled people's careers, right? And it's vile, but it's a truth. And we laugh about it in the context of this movie, but the reality is that it makes you kind of sick to your stomach, right? Speaking of Miramax and a Weinstein alumni, Quentin Tarantino was contacted to play the role of director in this movie rather than Redman.
Oh.
And
he's like, that's a little too close to home.
No, I think that he just it went to his representation and they just didn't even give it to him. Or
like, what?
Because I feel like
still
I feel like I don't know, man. Quentin Tarantino loves every movie. Like he's the kind of guy that would be in this if
I
he
know,
knew
I
that
mean,
John
his-
Waters was in.
Last feet, yes.
Yeah. And saying the N-word. In his own movies, that's kind of a running joke. I always bring that up.
Yeah, it always makes me go, God
Makes you-
damn, stop.
I'm gonna keep
Stop
saying
bringing it up.
until people recognize that he self-inserts himself into movies and always drops the worst word.
I mean, not always, but yeah, and yeah, it's bad. It's a bad thing.
and he
I
just gets Selma Hayek to like put her feet in his mouth.
He didn't direct that movie. That was Robert Rodriguez.
He did it.
Oh, but that was probably on his rider.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on his contract. He's like, all right, I'll do From Dusk Till Dawn if I get to drink champagne off of Selma Hayek's foot. But I was going to ask you guys, do you think that would have been something that you would have liked? Is to have seen Quentin Tarantino in the role that Redman played. I almost called him Eddie Redmayne.
Eddie Redmayne.
Different person. Redman. Yeah. Because I think that Quentin Tarantino is entertaining as an actor for the most part. I think there are some times where he shows up where I'm like, this is too much. You know, like Django, when he shows up and he's doing an Australian accent, and you're like, can you stop? Can you just stop? You don't need to be in this. But I think it would have been, especially if he was playing himself, right? Like Quentin Tarantino in this role would have maybe been fun as well. I don't know.
What do you
I
think?
leave it up to you. What do you think,
What
guys?
do you think, B?
I see what you're saying, and I think yes, it did have the potential to be fun, but it also, because Quentin Tarantino is such an overwhelming presence, I think it might have just been too much. Like I think Redman is perfect because it's also, the stakes are much lower than if it was a Tarantino movie, right? Like
Right.
it's funnier.
There would have been more people trying to get that role than Jennifer Tilly.
It's
Yeah.
funnier that she is ready to sleep with Redman.
Yeah.
Than Quentin Tarantino. Yeah.
I think
Like-
also
Yeah.
having Redman as the director is funny on its own because but also it sticks this movie into its time so hard. You know, Quentin Tarantino is kind of like, he transcends like an era. Redman was like, How High came out this year, I'm pretty sure, or right around this time.
Right.
Redman
And don't get me wrong, I
comedy.
think that Redman is great in the role. He's pretty much perfect, right?
He's
Like
great.
because he's not a bad actor, but he's not a good actor at the same time, right? Like he feels like he's acting. It's like a person is acting. You're watching a person act, and you're aware that he's acting.
Without knowing what year this movie came out, I could know what year this movie came out by seeing him in it. And I think like B said, like Tarantino would sort of just kind of.
But imagine Quentin Tarantino getting murdered at a dinner table, like with his guts all. That would have been
great. That's what I was just thinking of. Also, like that scene would have been maybe better because Tarantino getting his guts ripped out is
also like him being like, "Listen, baby, as soon as I moved to Hollywood, I got a vasectomy." Like it would have been pretty great.
The thing that I am thinking of at this point is I saw a thing today where on Howard Stern, Adam Sandler said he was supposed to play Eli Roth's character in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
Right.
Which would have changed that movie because it would
have changed it a lot. Yeah, but if you watch
whatever character into like more of a like.
Well, I mean, if you think about that character, not to like turn this into an Inglourious Bastards discussion, and you think about every single line of the Bear Jew in that movie, he is saying Adam Sandler lines. If you think about them in the cadence and style of Adam Sandler, you're like, those are all clearly lines written for Adam Sandler to say. Like, especially the part where they have to go punch the two guards to get into Hitler's private box. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to kill that guy. And then you kill that guy. Like, that sounds like something that Adam Sandler would say.
But I want to see that.
I
want to see that version of.
I want to see that version too. But at the same time, that's kind of a testament to how he writes as a director, right? And a writer is like, he's literally writing a role for a specific actor because he can do that. And most people, if approached to be in a Quentin Tarantino movie, are probably going to say, yeah, yes, please.
Listen, if they're gonna get somebody from the Wu-Tang Clan, just get Old Dirty Bastard to play every role in this movie. In fact,
is he alive still?
Well, he would have been at this time, but he is definitely not now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was still alive in 2004.
I think he
now
was.
he's just an old dirty bastard in the sky.
That's great. Teen Chunky is what I wrote. Makes it to the USA.
Wow, fat shaming a puppet.
Jesus, Jason.
Oh, don't you be so. We call him Chunky.
Jason's as bad as Harvey Weinstein.
Okay. Listen, you're not going to put that in the you're not going to put that in the thing, are you? Is he as bad as Harvey Weinstein? Jesus Christ. I'm going to I get canceled every episode and Steve does it every time. Does Tom even say anything that bad?
I haven't gotten any text yet, but I'm sure they're coming soon.
He wakes up in a monster magic makeup room that he thinks is real. So he's talking to the monsters like they're real people. But it seems like it's just like a room where they manufacture or build life-size dummies of different monsters from the movies. I think we see like a zombie and like a Freddy kind of guy.
Yeah, for those of us that are terrified of puppets, that is what we call the seventh circle of hell. Being locked in a room like that would be punishment for treason, as far as I'm concerned.
And I'm the opposite, where I would be so happy to be in that, because you got a Frankenstein, you got a Dracula,
and Dracula.
Yeah, you've got all these things that I love so much.
A creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yes, I was a big Creature from the Black Lagoon kid, where for some reason, that monster was just so intriguing to me. I watched that movie when I was like 8, and I was like, this is a beautiful movie about a misunderstood creature at the bottom of a lagoon.
You know, I've only known you for what, like an hour? I fully buy that. You definitely seem like a Creature from the Black Lagoon type of fan.
Oh, you don't even have to say type of
Give
fan.
me that vibe.
You just say you seem like a Creature from the Black Lagoon.
That's great. If you think of all those old Hollywood monsters, they are all kind of just misunderstood. Except for Dracula, he's not a good guy. Well,
no,
he's probably misunderstood.
But he's a bad guy that is bad for reasons that are understandable.
He's a real Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
He gives me I can fix him vibes.
Yeah. I want to fix your trauma.
Blah! Chucky is gonna be so. Why did I write that? Oh, he finds the Chucky and Bride dolls from that movie set earlier. And he also has the necklace for some reason because he was left with him at the end of Bride of Chucky, I guess. I was going to ask you, Steve, specifically if you remember, or if you is that what happens at the end? We watched this in October. I don't know why I can't
Tiffany
remember.
is burnt to the point that she is charred with no hair left. Chucky gets shot a bunch of times, and they're both dead. They were in the middle of doing their Ade Due Dembala. Give me the power, I beg of you. But it's incomplete, as it usually is at the end of these movies, which, if there are rules, which the rules are light in these movies, if you're in the middle of doing the Ade Due Dembala chant, the magic is going to protect you in some capacity, and you will be resurrected somehow. Now, I assume the dolls that they're using for authenticity are the same dolls that were murdered at the end of The Bride of Chucky. And they wanted to be authentic to the crime, so they bought the dolls from a police auction or something and then used them
up a bit.
Or, Glen somehow gets a hold of the amulet and he's able to scoop their souls out of the ether and put them into these new dolls, which the Chucky show and Curse of Chucky and all of them really sort of expand the capacity of this amulet's powers. And I think they don't even need the amulet at some point. They're like, wait a minute, we don't need the amulet. We can just do the chant and it works.
Well, Brad Dourif / Charles Lee Ray is finally dead. He's finally at rest. He's no longer of this world. So I immediately was like, when he starts the incantation, I was like, Chucky's going to be so mad when he is awoken. Because Chucky's thing is he either wants to be a human, that changes in this movie, obviously. He either wants to be a human so he can go on living his life and be a murderous human instead of a murderous doll. Basically a criminal.
Well, yeah,
he wants to just be dead and not have anything to do with this stupid nonsense anymore.
He's been trying to put himself into a human body since the first movie, right?
Since 1986.
There was a specific reason he wanted Andy. I don't remember why. I think there was a rule that they created in the universe where it's like, well, you bonded with him, so now you have to go into him or whatever. Because why would you want to go into a 7-year-old?
So you can live your whole life.
Yeah, but you can go into like someone who can buy alcohol legally.
Yeah, but imagine being an adult's brain as a 7-year-old. That's like going back in time. You could like, I don't know.
I know, but you can't do anything for a while.
You can get away with.
Yeah,
that's true.
People just misunderstood and thought you were a child.
He's just a child.
He's the orphan. That's the plot of the orphan.
All right. I get it. I understand the appeal, I suppose.
There was a moment later in the movie where I was like, just put don't do what the kid wants to do. Forget that you're deciding whether he wants to be a boy or a girl. Chucky and Tiff just go into the babies and then just get raised by Jennifer Tilly, which kind of happens. But
a little bit,
yeah. So Chucky's gonna be mad. The reaction that Chucky has to Glenda is the most authentic, funny moment in the movie, in my opinion, where he looks at him, just goes, ah!
He's scared of him. Yeah, I like the family reunion.
We were all thinking.
Yeah, I like the family reunion, or not. I mean, introduction, I guess. It's charming and it's cute and it's funny and it's offensive a little bit. I don't know how you guys felt, but I think that it kind of encapsulates Chucky's persona, Tiff's persona, and what we're learning of Glen/Glenda perfectly. It kind of shows us who they are. And Chucky is and always has been a shithead asshole, but he's always been a little bit funny. He started very scary and slowly became funny. That's kind of his deal. Whereas like Jason has always been scary, but he just gets scarier and scarier as the movies go on
because he becomes mutilated.
He just gets more gross. Yeah. Freddy becomes more
like
of a
Bugs
cartoon
Bunny.
character. Yeah, he starts off as a horrible pervert and then is essentially Bugs Bunny by
Michael
the
Myers
end.
surprisingly the most consistent. His mask gets more and more fucked up as the years go by, but like not by that much.
Yeah. Michael Myers is maybe the most boring one, but
No shit. I agree.
and
No
then
character growth.
Yeah, and then we've got our boy Chucky, who is the most well-rounded character in my opinion, and we get to see him with his guard down, what he finds funny, and the last movie in this movie.
Being a father.
He embraces it immediately. Yeah, like it's almost like he's thought about this before, like.
I would assume that out of all of the fictional serial killers that we have, Chucky would be the first one to go out to buy cigarettes and not come back.
Yeah.
He tries that in Bride of Chucky, I'm pretty sure.
I need to go buy some smokes.
Because the whole thing in Bride of Chucky is that like she just wants to get married and like start a family, and he was like, get me out of here. I can't deal with any of this. But he doesn't.
But he kind of has that same sort of reaction by the end of the movie, right? Like he grows very quickly in this movie and then crumbles once the pressures of everything start to rear the reality in his face, where you're like, oh my god, what is this? What do I have to do here?
Growth isn't linear, Stephen.
Sorry. So the scene we're on now is great decapitation, I'll say, when the special effects artists come in and he is he's on the phone and he's kind of having like a weird, funny conversation. Like, what does he say? He's like, no, they don't talk on their own. The person on the phone thinks they're real dolls. And he's like explaining to this person like they're an idiot. Like, no, they're not real. They don't talk on their own. They don't move on their own. While he's walking into a room where they are both talking and moving on their own without any aid from a special effects artist. Funny. That's funny.
I fully thought that right before the guy walks into the room, they're sort of all the stuff we just talked about happens. They're sort of arguing about if he's a boy or a girl. I was fully sure that after they're like, what's your name? And he goes, it's Shitface, which was another funny like little moment. Tiff goes, oh, you're sweet face. Your face is so sweet. I was sure that Chucky was going to be like, no, he's Chuck Jr. The name.
You were sure of that? Why were you sure of that?
Because Chucky seems like the kind of person to name his kid Chucky.
We're gonna call you Charlie.
We're gonna call you Charlie Jr. But no, he goes with. But he chooses Glen, and he hasn't quite. They haven't quite. I keep saying he because at this point, like, I thought it was boy the whole time.
I mean, he's presenting male, so
Yeah.
we'll forgive you, but we can go with they them.
Yeah. The thing that was interesting is around this point they're already having that, like, I don't know. I don't really understand the concept of boy or girl as it relates to
No one
me.
ever taught it to him.
Yeah.
He's kind of a blank slate in the sense that he's never really had a life outside of the cage where he's presented as, a prop, basically. And he's given a unique opportunity, which is that he has existed for so long without a gender that he doesn't really know what his gender is or their gender is. So he has the opportunity to choose. And their parents are giving them that opportunity, which is an interesting sort of mechanic within the movie, but it doesn't really go in the direction that as a viewer in 2024 you would think it would go. It goes more into the direction of like, no, there are two options and you have both options locked away inside of you and you choose now which one to do.
You have to choose and only choose one.
Yeah.
This is where the Barbie mode thing happens, because as that guy comes into the room talking on the phone, it's like Barbie mode, which was funny. He comes in talking about taking them apart, and then was this a reference to Batman when he pulls the cart over and it's got surgery tools on it for some reason, and then he uses a drill?
Well, actually, that in Batman, that's a reference to Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay,
It's the tools that are on that in Little Shop of Horrors are the tools that are used in the original Little Shop of Horrors are then reused in Batman. And in Little Shop of Horrors, the original, not the remake, it's Jack Nicholson who's having his teeth worked on by the dentist with these like torture tools. They're then reused in Batman for the tools that were used to do the face reconstruction surgery. Okay. So is it a reference to both? Who knows?
This is the third time they're being used. They're just locked away in a special effects department somewhere.
Probably. They're stainless steel. They're not going to degrade for like a million years. I did want to, before we go away from like the gender, the choosing of the gender thing, it kind of gave the energy of like those TikToks and viral videos of like really shitty gender reveal parties where like a dad, the balloon pops and the dad sees pink mist or whatever, and he just like loses his shit and like starts smashing a table.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, you watch this and you expect Chucky to act that way, but he has a more reserved version of that bad reaction to a gender reveal than like actual human beings have in real life, and they're not, sadistic murderers.
There was also less destruction in this gender reveal.
Yeah, no forest
Nothing
fires.
got blown up.
Nobody got hit by a plane.
I was playing Dead Island 2 the other day, and they have all these funny signs everywhere. And I was about to enter like a forest preserve area, and I was waiting for one of my friends, so I was just like, I'll just read all these signs. And one of them was, due to the recent dry terrain warning, all gender reveal parties are strictly like prohibited within the regions of the park. And there's all these like signs everywhere about no gender reveal parties. It was pretty funny.
I like I saw a TikTok today that was a gender reveal party, and when they hit the balloon, it exploded, and the dad like moves out of the way, and there's a kid there, and all the dust, all the blue dust just like coated the kid. So the kid's just like, that's
and she's like trying to pull it out of her mouth. Yeah,
that's a film that I could get behind. This is great too, because they really hit home the mechanic that Chucky, like when Chucky and Tiff come to life, you see like the blood enter their eyes. But when he takes the plate off her back, did she like that or did she not like that? Because I
don't think she liked it. She didn't seem to be into it.
But the sounds she was making almost seemed a little bit like. Anyway,
Jason, you sick twisted pervert.
I'm a sick twisted pervert. When he pulls the back plate off, she's just got like guts, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And that's when he gets his head piano wired clean off.
A good decapitation, I
Yeah.
will say. The effect there was great. I love a good decapitation in a movie, and this one was grade A, I would say. I wouldn't go S tier, but I will go grade A for sure. And
That
then
was one of the hardest things to swallow, honestly, was that something with the strength of even a preternatural murderer in a puppet using piano wire could take a person's head off. That takes a lot of force.
Every
well, it
single
was
one
both of them. They
these,
were both doing it. It was double. It was
every
double
single
strength.
Chucky movie has a moment where you're like, what are the rules
he
for his
super strong?
strength?
Yeah.
Fucking halfling barbarian? Are we kidding?
Yeah, it's kind of what it is. Yeah, he does at times do things that are superhuman, and then other times he'll just get tossed across the room like he weighs nothing, and you're like, which one is it? Who knows?
Glass cannon.
Yeah, glass cannon. And then we get Jennifer Tilly coming in looking for her chocolate bar.
Well, we get the pulling the pants down stuff here,
right.
But yeah,
he just hasn't had his growth spurt yet. Yeah, okay.
It's like, oh, okay, so he's got an invisible micro penis.
No, it's just an innie at this point, right? Isn't it? It's gonna pop out. That's how
Does
it
the
works.
pee
right?
just like, because there's this running gag that the doll pees itself when it's scared. So like, does the pee just like, it's one of those dolls from the 80s that, you know,
it just comes out the seams. I don't know. Yeah.
I had one of those.
baby
the hole in the bottom.
Baby Wedding Susie or whatever it was called. I'm sure it was a great name like that.
That sounds like a really good name. Easy to market.
It's
It
Baby
was
Wedding
something
Susie.
like that. Honestly,
Susie go bed wet.
Susie go bed wet. Hawaii.
we had weird dolls. We had dolls that looked like Chucky. They were called My Buddy.
The Buddy dolls, yeah.
My cousin had one. I hid
Isn't
it.
yeah, the Buddy doll. I remember the Buddy dolls. And they basically were Chucky dolls, right?
Yeah,
I think
My Buddy. Pretty much wearing exactly what he's wearing.
I think the good guy dolls were just essentially like a lampoon of that, right?
Yeah, from like the late 80s, early 90s. That didn't they have like the rainbow shirt, just like what Chucky's wearing in that picture?
Pretty much exactly what he was wearing, except the My Buddies had like brown hair, dark brown hair.
And they didn't look as sadistic in the face. Still look.
I hated that thing.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the good guy dolls from the early movies, like they're very cute and like, you know, innocent. They're like Cabbage Patch esque. They're not scary. It's the animatronics when they like start yelling at you. That's when it gets terrifying.
But yeah, Jennifer Tilly walks into the room. I was like, why is she here? But then they reveal that she was looking for her chocolate bar.
So I put down, is this the top tier interacting with a decapitated head when you don't know it's real joke before the Tropic Thunder gag? Like, this is like pre-Tropic Thunder, and it's pretty good. There's not a lot of gags where people are fiddling around with what they think is a prop head, only to discover that it's real.
But she does realize that it's fake.
Much faster than Ben Stiller, but there is the argument that Ben Stiller is maybe realizes halfway through what he's doing that it is a real head, and he just doesn't want to admit that it's real.
Which is
when he's like drinking the blood out of it, and he's like blood flavored corn syrup. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. The when she screams, we get that great smash cut of her screaming throughout this movie right at the credits, and I think that, like I said, she's a great scream queen. I really bought it, and it smash cuts to her leaving. I guess she was like exonerated of having done the murder, obviously, because there's no way that she was decapitating people. But we're introduced now to a paparazzi who's played by John Waters.
He has, I think, my second, or not, there's a lot of really good lines in this movie, but this is one of the best, where she's like, he's dead. You want me to draw a picture for you? And he's like, would you? Someone get her a piece of paper. I wonder if he came up with that line, or if that was just, because that is a very John Watersy type line,
It really is.
Yeah.
That man is a national treasure.
He is. maybe an international treasure. I would go as far as to say that he's like the crown jewels. Yeah.
Fair.
Or the family jewels, as he would probably call
The
them.
family jewels. They get into, we're also introduced to Stan now. Stan is in love with Jennifer Tilly. He's the limo driver. The plan is to transfer Tiff into Tilly and Chuck into Redman at this point. And not sure who Glenda is going to go in, but that's sort of the conceit of the movie. Stan's her boyfriend, I guess, not just a weirdo fan. When I first saw Stan, I was like, what the fuck is this guy?
What the fuck is this guy?
But it seems like they kind of have a bit of a relationship. They end up at Jennifer Tilly's house in the attic. We cut to the doll squad, as I kept calling them in my notes.
So this is where I had another question for you guys.
Okay.
If you were a sentient doll, evil, you guys there mentally? And you had the option, or if you had to choose who you had to stalk, capture, and subdue in order to put yourself into their body, what would you want, profession wise, looks wise? Like, what would you want to do, if anything? Or would you want to be like Chucky at the end, where he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna stay as a doll?
Depends what I look like as a doll.
Depends on what you look.
Depends what kind of doll.
Let's say
There are
you look like
kinds
a
of dolls that I would not want to be stuck as.
We'll say you look like one of these types of dolls, like a more like a version of you that looks more similar to this.
I don't know. I mean, in doll form, you don't age. You're always the least likely culprit in any sort of crime.
Right. I never said you had to be committing crimes. I just said you're evil.
What crimes are you admitting to right now, B?
None, because I'm not in doll form. Talk to me when I'm a doll, and maybe I'll admit shit. If I was in doll form, come on. The atrocities are funny.
They are. They are.
Part of me. I don't know.
I don't really have a good answer either, because it's like you'd have to be able to get close to somebody. Can you just like mail yourself to like Jeff Bezos and like, swap yourself into his body?
Would swap my sentience into Dwayne Diarrhea The Rock Johnson.
Oh.
That's a reference to the pre-show, which will only exist for 2 weeks. You can find it on Twitch after the show. The thing, it's just kind of an in-joke with myself. I always say The Rock for everything, so you opened me up for saying that.
All right.
How about you, Steve? B stays as a doll. That's that sounds like your decision.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys really sold me on picking an 8-year-old child. It's like, you get to live your whole life again. You can learn piano at a young age. No, I would probably go for somebody that is respected for their ability to, like, I would probably want to go into like a director, or like when he was like, I'm going to be Redman. This is sick. I'll be a movie director. I don't need to get creative in the sense of murder, but like I would like to be able to just already be an established creative individual that could then just, have that sway. That'd be pretty cool and fun. Maybe like an eccentric artist, like a Banksy or something.
I'm going to transfer into Banksy so I can find out who Banksy is.
Yeah, just so I know who he is for sure. Or they, I don't know.
I feel like I would body swap with Neil Gaiman.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
He's
like, Neil, when's your next?
Right.
You're like, Neil, when's your next book coming out? You write a new one, and it's like, this is really different than the last book you wrote.
This is all fan fiction for Harry Potter. What is happening?
My immortal.
Well, that was a weird, awkward question, and I'm glad I asked it.
Well, that's what we do here on the show.
Oh, wait, I have a new answer. There's like this weird artist guy who like, he made all of his money by doing these like bisections of sharks. And then he used the money he made from that to excavate, or I guess, what's the opposite of submerge, emerge? I don't know. To bring all this like lost treasure from the bottom of the ocean. That guy. That guy seems like he's got like a cool, like he's like a modern day like weird explorer. I don't know his name though. I'll have to look it up before I go into doll form and try and swap into his body.
I actually have a new answer as well. Dwayne Diarrhea the Rock Johnson.
That's the same answer, Jason. I thought you were gonna say Harvey Weinstein.
No, I was gonna say Kane, but that's a little bit of a the professional wrestler Kane. But Glenn Jacobs is a horrible Republican, so let's move on.
You want to be in Kane's body now?
I don't know. It was a joke.
How many bumps has that man taken?
Like every single one of them.
Of course he's a Republican. He's gotten so much CTE that his brain doesn't work anymore.
I want to be Prime Kane. I want to be Kane in 1998. That's another thing that I just always say is Kane. Anyway, whatever. Why do you kill? Glenda asks the parents about why they're always murdering everybody. And the TV says violence is bad, so he's like, but violence is bad. And Chucky's like, no, violins are bad. Their screechy music is ruining music for the rest of us.
No, it's just gonna ruin this country.
The goddamn country.
He localizes it to this country, which is very funny. This is when you start to see like boomerisms come out of Chucky, which are like pretty great because he's saying this stuff in 2004, which it still kind of like rings true to how older generations act now,
True,
right?
and Charles Lee Ray would have been at this point in his 50s, right?
He's a true boomer. Like he was turned into a doll in the like mid 80s or early 80s.
He
Yeah.
was probably like 30. That which I like.
No violins. That screechy music is ruining this country.
Which I thought was just so like such a weird non sequitur. Great Chucky.
I literally wrote down in my notes, Chucky hating violins is showing his boomer energy, and I like it.
Chucky's probably a Republican.
Yeah.
They make a plan, much like in Bride of Chucky, to quit killing. They both fail almost immediately, with different results.
But it's very funny that they are keeping it from one another. So they're both like they're dealing with their addiction. Chucky
literally crosses
all right,
his
I
fingers
promise.
when he promises.
Yeah, but he's not gonna live up to his end of the bargain. And Tiff is trying, and we get some very good ninth step of the 12th step program humor, which is always a funny step in any
Very
context.
Sid Nancy energy, and I kind of love that.
Yeah. There's also like that episode of Seinfeld where George is mad at the guy who doesn't apologize to him. Like he's going around on the ninth step and apologizing to everybody, but he just doesn't apologize to George. It's funny. It's a funny step. It's rife with comedy.
Played by Blacklist and Robert California, James Spader, which is great.
Yeah. Why did they have to add coconut? I am like original.
Where's the rum raisin? You stretch the neck out of my sweater. Who cares?
Really good, James Spader.
Thank you.
Steve does some impressions here. Give him a little bit of Tom Hanks.
No, God, no. No, it has to come out of me naturally.
Okay, fair enough. Rita. We cut over to Jennifer Tilly and her assistant, who are kind of arguing about the situation with, trying to sleep with Redman in order to get into this movie. And the assistant makes a very good point. It's like, why are you prostituting yourself to play the Virgin Mary? Which I think is fantastic. Not that there's anything wrong with that, I suppose.
We also got a brief scene of her writing fan mail for Tiffany, which is like shows just how much of a sweetheart this character is.
Her name's
and also
Joan.
Yeah, and we also get the driver who's in love with her, and you start to realize like, oh, everybody who she surrounds herself with, who she has in her employment, like literally love her and want her to be happy, which makes you feel like maybe she's actually like a really good person, or she's just got this magnetic energy. You can't really tell because in the context of the movie, she doesn't seem like she's a very good person, but she is battling with all these emotions and decisions that she's making. But the evidence is clear.
Never underestimate the power of a good pair of boobs.
That's true. Maybe they all just love her boobs. I didn't consider that.
It's true. Everybody loves boobs. I have a question. Oh.
That's not a question.
No, my mind was just blown by something that I'll tell you about in a second. But the actor who played Joan, Hannah Spearritt, she looked familiar to me. Now, I don't know if I've actually seen her or anything. She's British. She may have been Hannah from S Club 7, though. She is definitely Hannah from S Club 7, and that's where I recognize her from. Holy shit.
I'm now 100% like, oh yeah, you're right. Because she did look familiar to me as well. And I was like, I don't know from where. Maybe from something else that I watched.
And I think
turns out it was the S Club 7 music videos.
That's why she was also British. So I saw...
That's why she was British, because she was in S Club 7.
That's why she was
the
British.
only reason, yeah.
I saw Rosencrantz and Guildenstern this week.
With Billy Boyd?
With Billy Boyd and
Dominic Monaghan?
And Dominic Monaghan. And
Monaghan, sorry.
When I was looking into this movie, I was like, it said Billy Boyd was in it. And I'm watching this whole movie going, who the fuck is Billy Boyd? Billy Boyd was Glen.
All right, Jason, come on. Have you ever seen the Lord of the Rings movie? He's just doing Pippin. Like, he just sounds exactly like Pippin.
Didn't know?
Yeah, what the hell?
Listen, I thought Billy Boyd was going to show up and be like, tut, 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 cheerio. But he was the whole time.
He was doing it in doll form.
In doll form. I thought, because I didn't look this up until just now when I was looking up Hannah from S Club 7. I thought that it was just like Brad Dourif doing like a bad British accent or something.
No, it's a real. Also, I think he's Scottish, but yeah, it is a real. Yeah.
Shout out to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Great story, but also their performance was fantastic. It's a little bit long, at nearly 3 hours, but if you have a chance, it's a great evening spent at the theater. That's what I'll say. Billy Boyd, ladies and gentlemen.
Am I allowed to watch TikTok while I'm there?
You can't. You're not allowed.
No, I'm just joking. I usually get pretty enraptured by live performances.
It's great. It's a great Hamlet side quest.
Side quest,
sort of. If you don't know the story, if you've never seen it before, it's a really interesting the two minor characters.
I think most people who know who Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are will know that this exists. Okay. Yeah. There's a good movie as well starring Gary Oldman and Tim Roth. If you don't have theater bucks, yeah, you could watch the movie.
Isn't that from like the 90s?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
It's Gary Oldman and Tim Roth.
Yeah. It's the 90s.
Of course it's going to be good.
And it's Dracula and the guy from
and Abomination from The Incredible Hulk.
An Abomination, there you go. Yeah. The guy from Four Rooms, yeah.
Yeah.
The butler or the
bellhop.
The bellhop,
yeah.
Chucky has to jerk into a cup to artificially inseminate. We see doll boobs, and he masturbates to Fangoria.
Wait, I wanted to talk about the low-hanging fruit joke.
Okay.
Anna Nicole Smith jab does not age well, and it was a real easy joke at the time. She died shortly after this because of the horrible treatment of her by late-night talk show hosts, SNL, movies like this. Everything. She was everywhere. She was being bombarded. Her son died as well, like shortly before she died. It's just like, holy shit, was she a punching bag? And to see that joke in here, I was like, Don, come on, man.
And what really sucks about that is all she did was like marry an old guy. That's literally her only crime. Was she was like this model, and then she just did the stereotypical gold digger thing and married an old guy, and he passed away, and she was raped.
I think it was because it was so vehemently transparent.
But that I know. I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not like that's not my point. In the public eye, that's all she did to end up as this punching bag.
Of course, and no, like obviously hindsight, but holy fuck, was she was like ridiculed by everyone. Like I'm pretty sure Sesame Street had a go at her.
As far as I'm concerned, go on, girl, get your money. Like
yes,
Yeah.
have to deal with a man that old,
Yes.
no one can say that that money isn't hard won.
Yes. Absolutely.
Anyway, I just wanted to criticize my favorite director, Don Mancini, for a moment. To be like, come on, man. You couldn't have thought of anybody else. You could have made up someone or
that sort of thing.
When you get me on the Anna Nicole train, like I rant. I rant.
And I remember even at the time being like, this is rough. Like as a, essentially a child was just like, they are making fun of her every single night on like every single late night show. From what I remember, I think the one that didn't really put her through the ringer was Conan, but I'm pretty sure every single other late night host was just, there was an Anna Nicole gag every single night.
Yeah, but Conan was a Simpsons writer, so he never really took direct jabs at people. He always made some non sequitur style joke about
a joke within a joke within a joke.
Yeah, about the goings on, the pop culture of the day.
I'm gonna make fun of a monorail.
Yeah, and that put them on the map. Yeah. The best part about what happens during this sequence is just how out of control, insane it is to watch. John Waters, like taking pictures of like Redman and Anna Nicole Smith, Jennifer Tilly, like making out on a couch. The doll, like the Tiff dolls in the background of that shot, and he keeps going up to see a doll masturbating.
He thinks it's a little person.
He thinks it's a little person. He says
he even says, "God bless the little people."
He says a masturbating midget, which it was also extremely funny. And he goes, "Get it, mini me," because Austin Powers was like. Austin Powers 2 probably
Austin Powers was hot.
Yeah.
I think the third one had come out just recently.
Yeah.
In 2003. But I put down doll flashing is off-putting, weird and gross. Almost like more gross than jerking off to Fangoria magazine. Like I would put that at less gross than the flashing of the weird rubber boobs.
It was weird.
Yeah. It's weird. And I was like, ugh. We didn't need to see that. And no doll boobs, please.
They tease it so much in Bride of Chucky. Like we get like a
tease it. Jesus.
A silhouette of them having sex, and for them to
just full on... there's not a lot of nudity in Chucky movies. I don't think there's any actually.
This one might have the most with the psycho homage at
the beginning,
and then boobs.
Doll boobs, yeah.
With nipples. Like, I was like, what the did somebody on the writing team or did somebody who, like, some fan be like, you should have shown the boobs? And Don Mancini was like, I should have shown the boobs.
He's like, you know what? I'm going to give the people what they want.
We all know that was John Waters.
Yeah. John
That's
Waters
a really good point, actually.
Don, you should really have some...
You should show the boobs.
Rubber boobies, yeah. The boobies, people love the boobies.
Felt very John Waters.
Yeah. They call him Annual Gift Man, and he lives on the moon. That's what John Waters says about Santa Claus in the Simpsons episode that he's in.
Zap. They reveal themselves to Tilly, the dolls do. They chase down Tilly and knock her out, and then we get a great, not so great scene where Tiff puts the semen in Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah, turkey baster. We don't have to. Let's not talk about it.
I'll talk about it slowly, and you'll all cringe. We go back to Glenda. Chucky and Glen have a little night out. They have to go take care of the paparazzi for being a horrible thing.
But first, they have to kill Britney Spears in her car. But first,
they have to kill Britney Spears, and this is
where the second death in the movie is Britney Spears being run off of a cliff.
Which is so
and I wrote down, leave Britney alone.
Which is so good too, because they're in a truck driving. Glenda is operating the pedals. Chucky's driving like a maniac. He keeps telling him to go faster and faster. Glen's like, I don't know. It seems like we're going kind of fast. They're listening to a style parody of In the Club by 50 Cent. And when it cuts to Britney Spears in her car, she's listening to a style parody of a Britney Spears song. Like, none of this is real. Obviously, they can't use it because they're not going to pay for it. And they do run her off the road. And then the explosion is the most ridiculous explosion I've ever seen.
Yeah, her car was full of like explosives. It was full of
Like
dynamite
grenades.
and grenades and a bunch of alcohol. Yeah, and gasoline. Uh, Pretty good Britney Spears impersonator, whoever that was. I'm not sure. I didn't look up the
Probably the
actor.
same one that Justin Timberlake used for Crimea River.
Probably. You know what? You're probably right. I would. Why wouldn't they? Right?
I'm gonna see if I can.
Or Derek Barry.
Yeah.
I'm clicking.
Also, kind of a weird jab, right? Like, but I mean, Britney Spears was still pretty huge at this point. Like, she hadn't reached that momentum of downfall that we all are now
It was
regretting.
actually
as
just on the
society.
precipice.
Was it? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
this was
like
maybe this was the
Yeah.
cause. Yeah.
2004, 2005 was when she
Oh.
had her breakdown.
Here's something interesting. This is why I thought she looked so familiar. She played the Britney Spears lookalike in Date Movie 2 years later.
Okay.
And those are her only acting roles. Britney in Seed
I
of
mean, if you
Chucky-
look like Britney Spears at that time period, yeah, you could probably make some bank shaving your head on camera.
Jesus Christ, leave Britney alone, Steven.
No, didn't she do that in one of those movies? She like is shaving her head.
Oh
with a
yeah, I
baby
think
or-
in Date
Yeah.
Movie. I don't know if I ever saw a Date Movie. Was that no? Not another teen movie. Was like
Oh God, let's
pretty
not
No,
good.
not another teen movie came out. It was kind of the forefather of like all of those.
Yeah, it was like
And
the
that one was
first.
fun.
That one was good. That was like almost like scary movie. And I remember I was in like high school and I
It
went,
was Remember the Spartans because she gets kicked into the Spartan pit
that movie sucks.
while she's shaving her head. She's going like,
Oh,
ow,
okay.
ow, 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 and then like he kicks her. Well, she's in a barber chair and he kicks her in.
Meet
I
the
remember that.
Spartans, epic movie, superhero movie. God, they're so those are examples of just like rapid fire references, like even worse than Family Guy, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
We get we get the sequence where they kill John Waters in his photography in his dark room.
John Waters has said that he very much enjoyed the filming of this movie. Period. He loved being in Chucky, and he has said like one of the highlights of my career is getting killed by Chucky. I love getting killed by Chucky.
Well, he's like one of the best parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Like he's a shitty character, but he gets his comeuppance, which is great. Something I noticed about Glen Glenda in this sequence, though, is he looks like more menacing than Chucky in that one shot of, John Waters sitting at the table, and you can just see like Glenn kind of standing there ominously. That made me shudder. That made me feel bad. And then they sulfuric acid him in the face to death.
I was like so unsure because I've done photography development in my life.
Like,
and I
is
was
there
like-
sulfuric acid?
And
in
I was
a
like,
dark
when
room?
do you use sulfuric acid in a dark room? That seems dangerous. And I looked it up, and standard black and white stock can also be reverse processed to give a black and white slide after the first development. And then you insert the silver image, then it's removed, and you use sulfuric acid to bleach in the clearing bath. So it is used.
I was
So it
wondering
made sense
as
that it
well.
was there.
Like, is it used to? Well, you explain.
It's like
what
to
used
reverse
for. Yeah.
reverse an image. Yeah.
Like, is it used to? Like, yeah, you explained it.
It's basically to remove the chromat stain from the film.
I don't.
I don't know. I haven't done it since I was like
I loved
21.
I loved I thought they were going to go full CGI, and they do for a second, and they cut away and then cut back, and then it's just full practical.
Well,
for
that's
his
yeah.
melted face.
I think that Don Mancini, even to this day, is like, I would prefer to do real stuff than fake stuff
Well,
always.
practical effects are just so much more unsettling and so much more terrifying
Yes.
Yeah.
than CGI.
The only CGI I really noticed in this was the weird sperms at the beginning. There was a scene in the
The turkey baster had some CGI coming off the end of it.
oh, did it?
Yeah. I remember being like, oh God, it's weirdly grosser that it's not real. I'd rather it be like ooze.
In the POV opening, when he's opening the door, this door was CGI for some reason, which was probably just they needed to do it that way.
The best piece of CGI in this movie is when real life Glenn at the end has his eye twitching.
His eye
I was like,
twitches?
now
Yeah.
that is good. Yeah, that is some good CGI right there.
So the plan all along was to make it seem like they had sex, give the seed to Tilly, then do Dembala them later, I guess, was the plan all along, because they don't really explain this plan that well.
Well, they were gonna, just tie them up, impregnate her, and then just like have them captive for a long time, I guess. But they wake up. Yeah, wait, hold on. You're right. Why did they need to tie up Redman?
Well, they didn't. They knocked them out.
Yeah, they hit.
And put them in the bed
Oh,
together.
you know what? I think that
to make it.
I think that might have been a moment of passion when she knocked out Redman. Like she was just knocking him out because she was pissed off at him. And like the plan was like knock them both out,
okay,
and then impregnate her, and then
maybe
we'll figure it out later.
Get rid of Redman even.
Yeah,
because Tiff ends up killing Redman.
Well, he's a pig.
He is a pig. He gets his comeuppance as well. Tiff is reading an addiction book. She decides to call the widow of Robert Bailey, who is the husband of somebody she had killed in the past. Was it the goth guy from the last movie, or was it?
I didn't look into who it was. I should have, but I didn't, and I just assumed it was someone who died in The Bride of Chucky, because she didn't exist before that, right?
Yeah.
But again, we talked about this briefly earlier.
But before she was the doll, she was a killer still. She was.
Oh right,
remember,
yeah, she was
a serial killer.
Yeah.
She was just.
So maybe she just killed somebody. It's just a joke.
Her whole thing was that she was like she was called the Black Widow or whatever, and she'd like take guys on like a date, kill them, and just rob them for whatever she could.
Right. I don't know, but the joke is funny. It's very funny that she's basically the victim thinks that it's a prank call at first, and she's like, "Is this a joke?" And she's like, "Oh no, I would never joke about something like this." And then she's like, "I murdered him, and I feel really bad about it, but I just want to let you know that I'm moving on, and I've put that entire thing behind me, and it is in no
You're
way
a sick freak."
Yeah, it's in no way doing the intended. It has no intended result for what step 9 is, and it's supposed to be for the person that you're apologizing to as well as yourself. But she just hangs up on her as she's weeping and screaming hysterically. It's funny. It's funny stuff.
And she essentially, she then calls her. Is this
sponsor essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her sponsor.
And he's like, I had to slip up just last week. Like,
so what you're saying is I should slip up immediately?
Yeah, falling off the wagon is part of the process.
I think between there it cuts over to Jennifer Tilly, and she's like instantly pregnant, which is from Bride of Chucky. I realized later, but at the time I was like, how's she pregnant 5 minutes like the next morning? I was going to say 5 minutes later, but I meant to say the next morning, because morning sickness doesn't happen the next day, obviously. But when you're impregnated by a doll in this universe, it happens very quickly. As we learned in Bride of Chucky, Tiffany gets pregnant like immediately. That is great storytelling, because I don't know if a 9-month time jump would have worked.
It's voodoo magic.
It's voodoo magic. Don't question it.
Yeah.
Then Jennifer Tilly reveals she's pregnant to Redman, and he's like, I couldn't have done it. I had a vasectomy. As soon as
can we talk about the amount of food they're eating between the two of them?
I didn't really clock that.
You didn't clock how much food is on that table.
There is pregnant.
Oh yeah, true. I didn't even consider that.
And he's high all the time.
Oh my god.
It makes total sense.
That's incredible.
Yeah. You know what? Forget everything I just said.
Yeah.
Because I was like, why is there so much food? There is a fruit bowl sized container of just macaroni and cheese. And he's like shoveling it down, not even really paying attention to her. There is giant broccoli. There's cauliflower, which
that's
you don't see
definitely
cauliflower in movies a lot.
About how he's a known stoner icon and she's pregnant, and also the subtext that she's fat, quote unquote. She's not fat. Jennifer Tilly in 2004. Good golly, Miss Molly. That's what I'll say to that.
I like the explanation that she's pregnant and he's high all the time. that's a perfect explanation as to why there's so much food and such a variety.
The best.
Who made it all? Was it ordered in? I need to know.
All? They didn't even have Postmates in 2004, let alone DoorDash. She gives in. So during, there's sort of a back and forth sequence during all this. Then Tiff talks to her sponsor. Then Tiff shows up in the room as Jennifer Tilly leaves the room, and she stabs Redman in the dick. But then and everything comes out. And I've never seen anything like this. And it was like, it's practical and it's so gross looking and it's so weird. And like I said at the beginning of the show, why is it steaming? You guys cleared me up on that.
That's a thing that happens a lot in Japanese samurai movies, is when the guts come out, they're steaming. And the implication is that like these battles are happening in a very early morning on a crisp, cold day, and the human body temperature is quite high, so it would be steaming. You wouldn't just have guts fall out. They would be reacting to the environment.
That's a good point.
I think it's very funny that they live in California where it's hot all the time. So the implication is that they have the AC just cranked in this house to the point that Redman's guts are steaming. But then also you just said he's a stoner. So I'm like, maybe it's just like supposed to be weed smoke coming out of his guts.
Which also kind of works for the time, the style of jokes that they're making in this movie.
Yeah. But there wasn't a lot of stonery jokes for him throughout,
true.
at all. So I think it was just supposed to be like a nod to like Japanese samurai movies.
Freaky Glenda catches Tiff doing this. Glen, we get the eye twitch. Then they're watching the news, and we get that joke about Martha Stewart getting executed.
Probably, again, one of the best jokes, because it's like, we brought up, imagine Quentin Tarantino was in this movie. He would have been murdered. And we all know that Quentin Tarantino loves making these like alternative reality movies where he has a historical event that is changed by the characters that he's created in his movies. Imagine they did something like that in this. It would have been like meta beyond meta, where like they put Quentin Tarantino in this movie to have him be murdered by Chucky, and the result is a world in which Quentin Tarantino movies no longer exist because Chucky killed Quentin Tarantino.
That's true. When you have people playing themselves, that's like the implication is so crazy. Like, that's why I was so shocked that Jennifer Tilly was playing herself in a movie where she's already playing a character. It's so good. Speaking of, Jennifer Tilly wakes up fully pregnant. I know I've woken up fully pregnant many times. She calls her assistant. She fired her assistant after accusing her of, prostitution, shaming her. And Tiff is also on the line for this sequence, so we get sort of a who's on first sort of a gag of them kind of talking. Tiff will talk, and then Joan will be like, think that Jennifer Tilly's talking.
Yeah, it's just funny. It's funny confusion. And
I think they used the fact that Jennifer Tilly has such a unique voice, like perfectly here. Because you couldn't do that with a lot of actors.
No, it wouldn't be. I mean, you could do it, but it wouldn't be nearly as funny. And and the fact that even Jennifer Tilly, IRL, or not IRL, but like Jennifer Tilly, the character in the movie, is like, stop imitating me. Like, she's getting pissed off because she thinks that her assistant is making fun of her voice. She's like, I don't sound anything like that.
In the same voice, yeah.
Yeah, it is beneficial to that joke that she has such a sort of, I don't know, it is unique. I almost said off-putting, but it's not really off-putting. It's just like super distinct, right? Like, it's almost cartoonish.
Yeah, when you hear her show up in like a cartoon, like something like she's Joe's wife on Family Guy, I think, and she shows up on like Robot Chicken and The Simpsons and all kinds of shows throughout time. You always know it's her immediately, Yeah. And she's so iconic. She's such an iconic person that she was like this was like the perfect meta casting to do here, because you could have done it differently with some some other starlet. Like, I wonder if they had. It's so weird in my head now that Hannah from S Club is the assistant. That changed the movie for me in a way. Like, it changed the dynamic of it.
You're like, in this universe, S Club 7 doesn't exist? And it's like, no, it does. And that same person would play the actual person from S Club, and they would meet at some point. One, a doll. How would kill the other one.
How about when Chucky throws the bag over Jennifer Tilly's head and we get the great... I love it when Chucky's hanging off somebody flailing.
Yeah.
And this is fantastic.
Yeah. That's so again funny. Like self-referential to the first movie when he's like, I've sent it to you a few times, Jason, but I keep finding versions of that scene in the first movie, but with different languages.
Different languages? Yeah, I think
so it's like it's German.
Hispanic,
yeah. It's very funny. Because he says a bunch of vile stuff, and like we're all sort of at least tangentially like familiar with curse words in other languages. So when you hear Chucky yelling a bunch of profanities at somebody in like German, you're like in German, you're like, oh yeah, I think he called her a piece of shit. I think.
I don't know why I wrote here, Gina Gershon is fingering me. But I think
because she's talking to her assistant, right. And she's like, "Oh no, the movie's on TV right now. It's the scene where Gina Gershon is fingering me. That's why you can hear me screaming in the background."
Yes, Chucky ties her up, and we get pervert Charles Lee Ray being like,
he does cartoonishly go for her breasts, and it's off-putting right up until he goes like, she came on to me.
I didn't like that. I hated that.
I thought it was funny because like clearly he's caught in the act. Like she's tied up on the bed. Like there's no way.
While this is all happening, after he gets caught trying to do that, the picture falls out of his pocket. We forgot to mention that when they were killing John Waters together, they set up.
They took a little father and child selfie,
and that picture kind of breaks my heart. Even at the end when he's looking at it like stoked, like, oh, my dad is Chucky. Glenda is looking down, like so ashamed, and I don't feel much for this doll. This doll freaks me out a little bit, you know. I don't like the Glenda doll, but the Glenda doll looking sad. For whatever reason, that makes...
Come on, Jason. He's a natural. You should have seen it. He would have been so proud.
Makes me sad.
No, it is... I mean, he's meant to be sympathetic throughout, right? And I felt that there's nothing worse than, facing the excitement of your parents for you to do something that you really don't want to do. It's not a great feeling, and I think most people can relate to that, right?
Yeah, I get that. But the jig is up. Tiff sees
the jig. Hold on.
Tiff sees the picture on the floor and realizes that Chucky has been out killing again, and they decided that they were not going to kill anymore. And luckily, right around this time, Redman falls out of a closet, Boof. Which is so funny to me because it's like, why were there was two like giant closets in this room just filled with dead bodies, which I think is so funny.
It's funny because they're hiding their murders from each other, right? Like They're both murdering, and it's like, hiding cigarettes or something when you're like, you're supposed to be quitting,
or like booze or whatever,
or you come in and then your partner like smells. It's like, did you smoke a cigarette? And you're like, no, I swear I didn't. I didn't smoke any cigarettes tonight. But it's like, he's going through this big long speech where he's like, I'm proud to be a killer, and it shouldn't be something that's hidden in the closet. And he hits the closet, and Redman falls out, right? So it's like this crescendo to a moment, and then that's when the movie gets to like the climax, I guess, where it's they all realize they're killers and they have to be killers, and that's who they're meant to be.
This sequence has one of the best. Like, I love chaos in movies. This has one of the best chaotic moments where Jennifer Tilly is screaming. There's two babies screaming. We'll get to that in a sec. The Stan is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like the police are showing up.
No, that's Kenny.
And everything is happening. And that's when Chucky's like, everybody stop. I loved that because of how much chaos there's dead bodies everywhere. When the police walk into the room and the scene that the police see when they walk into the room is so fucking good.
You're jumping ahead so much here,
Not
Jason.
really. I'm going to get to it. I just want to talk
You went all the way to the end.
No, I didn't.
All right,
Glen,
I'll be right back.
Okay, Glenn walks in and yells, "You're tearing me apart," 2 years before the movie The Room, which I thought was great. I think that Tommy...
Well, that line came from a James Dean movie.
That's true. I think it actually came from Rebel Without a Cause, possibly.
I think it was Rebel Without a Cause.
We actually... that's one of the first movies we ever did on this show, and I loved that movie. Maybe it wasn't. Was it A Streetcar Named Desire? Was that James Dean?
No, it was a James Dean movie. I'm looking this up now because I feel like it's a different one.
You're tearing me apart, Lisa.
No, it was Rebel Without a Cause.
Yes. Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah, it was Rebel Without a Cause because that entire movie, much like Cool as Ice, is someone watching Rebel Without a Cause, understanding none of it, but being very inspired.
Yeah. Well, Rebel Without a Cause is definitely one of those movies that, like, people of that era, it was probably like the first American Psycho or the first Scarface, where people just took it the wrong way and they based their
Fight
Club, and they based their whole personalities around it, even though it was like, I wouldn't say that
just an allegory for being gay. That's American Psycho is the gayest movie you'll ever watch, but not if you're straight, I guess.
I never really thought
it's the same with Fight Club. Like,
yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Actually, there was one guy I met who was like a very hardened, weird, sort of like homophobic man who I worked with for a long time. And we were talking about movies and we brought up Fight Club somehow. And he's like, I don't like Fight Club. And I was like, oh, you don't? A lot? Like most people love it. He's like, it felt really gay to me. It's like, oh my God, your homophobia is so strong that you picked up on the subtleties of the movie and you don't like it because it's gay. You know what? I'm okay with you being homophobic at this point because you're so honed in on it.
He's the kind of person that's like, I have gaydar, but he's right.
Yeah, he does have gaydar.
He's one of those guys that goes to Quora and is like, is it gay to wash your dick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Tim? Welcome. You just got here in time for us to discuss whether or not Fight Club
Most people
is
say
gay.
butt, but I like that you said dick. It's like funnier to me. Is it gay to wash your butt?
Listen, if you're looking at us right now in any time, in any part of history, please wash your butt and your dick and your vagina and your boobs and wash them all.
I don't have all of those things.
You don't have a dick or a butt?
I have that and that, yeah. But I don't know the other ones I don't have.
Or a vagina? Okay. They call...
Is it gay to wash your dick? That's funny.
That's really funny. I'm gonna clip that. It's gonna be a legendary clip. They call Stan. I'm not fully sure why they called him, other than to just get him into the rest of this movie. But the call...
They needed a body for Chucky.
Right,
man.
they needed a body for Chucky. Sorry. But it's so funny that they call him and he's like, he's still rehearsing like, I love you. And it just smash cuts to him in bed tied up also. I thought that was so effective as like a comedy.
That's like efficient. It's an efficient comedy beat, right? Where it's like, this guy means so little to the plot of this movie. He's just there to show us, the audience, that Jennifer Tilly is either magical or she's actually a very good person. We just aren't seeing it. But he has no other impression on the movie other than that's his purpose. So we don't need to see him getting beaten up and tied to the bed. We just, smash cut to him having a sock in his mouth.
Yeah.
Not just one sock too, like when you roll up your socks and put them in the basket or the drawer, it's like fully in there.
So Joan,
like a baguette.
Joan shows up.
Is it gay to wash your dick?
It's gonna make me laugh like that every time. Joan shows up. As she walks in the door, we see that the alarm is triggered. This is one of those moments where, sometimes I miss things when we watch movies and I'm like, why the fuck is that happening? I could have very easily been like, and missed it.
Well, that's why you don't do that when you're watching a movie.
I try not to, okay? Sometimes you're watching Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in a quiet, empty theater, a quiet, full theater, and you're just like,
Empty.
why is it empty? Anyway,
They're watching Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is better.
I fell asleep during every Lord of the Rings movie.
Not even Lord of the Rings. It's that DVD Easter egg of
Do you have
Dominic
eggs?
Monaghan asking if Elijah
Will
would
you
wear
have
wigs.
eggs?
Yeah. Have you von Vigs?
I learned recently about
Will you have eggs?
that the reason why it's extra funny, they couldn't see each other.
Yeah, so he didn't know that was.
He was calling from like another country.
Yeah.
I thought that they were just talking to each other like over a video chat or something.
It was just Dominic being a real hobbit, you know?
Yeah.
Will you have eggs?
Will you have eggs?
Have you von Vigs?
Have you von Vigs?
Dominic Monaghan is fucking an amazing actor, dude. There's 3 hours of lines for both of those guys, and they knew the whole thing. I know that's probably what you shouldn't be able to do if you're going to go on stage for 3 hours, but it was...
It's part of the job, Jason.
Kind of part of the job, but it was crazy to watch these guys do. It feels very ad-libbed a lot, but it's not. It's that's how it's written. It's a very interesting story. If you don't know the story, go check it out. Billy Boyd was the voice of Glen Glenda in this movie. Chucky is gonna fuck her up. Chucky does not fuck Joan up. Instead,
wait, we gotta hold on. Oh wait, I can't remember if this is before or after. Continue. Sorry.
I was just gonna get to Joan comes up the stairs. I wrote a note here. I was like, oh, is Joan gonna be final girl in this movie?
She should have been, but she wasn't.
She seemed like the character that was going to be final girl in this movie. She very much was not, because not 2 minutes after I wrote this note out, I wrote these 50 characters out. Tiff busts into the room with hairspray and a lighter. Yeah. Lights are on fire, and she goes flying over the banister. And
that's when all the middle schoolers went nuts and started doing that at home.
Yeah, I used to be a bit of a pyro when I was in middle school, and burnt the fuck out of my...
Yeah, party like an S Club party, because an S Club party requires a fire extinguisher.
And they're gonna say parental supervision
requires you to wash your penis. I know that's not the line. I changed it.
Yeah, we get a moment after this where the everything is set up in the room, right? The babies are about to be delivered. We've got Tiffany, we've got Chucky, we've got Jennifer Tilly and the driver, and everything is very chaotic. And Chucky puts his hands on the sides of his head and he goes, ay, 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 like a sitcom from the 1950s. And it's so fucking funny. It's probably the funniest part in the entire movie is him like pulling like a Dick Van Dyke or like a Ricky, like, I'm losing my mind.
Or Michelle from Full House, or Alpha from Power Rangers.
From Power Rangers, yeah. Ay, 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 ay.
Ay, ay, ay.
That is good. It's nothing compared to my crown of all the lines. That is like the crown of all lines in any Chucky movie, which comes right after this. But
I forgot I don't know what to say here. Glen is the scariest thing in this movie, and it turns out it wasn't Tiff. It was Glenda. Is it drag or is it revealing?
No,
like
it's your true Glenda's persona.
Yeah. It's not drag because they are neither male nor female. We've already established this in the movie. They are a blank slate of a person.
Yeah. Tiff gives Glenda a good smack, and Glenda goes nuts, but turns back into Glen and freaks out about the situation. And then Jennifer Tilly starts giving birth to babies. One.
Human babies,
baby. Oh no, we got something else coming here. It's second baby.
Was fully anticipating something like in the Witches, like the original Witches, when the kids eat the chocolate bar and they're like half rat, half
yeah.
At some point, I was fully expecting like that sort of thing.
Like a partial doll, yeah.
Yeah.
Even I've seen this movie before, and like more than once, and it's like this moment had been erased from my brain where I was like, I remember the very end where
Trauma will
there's
do that to you.
yeah, I remember I remember the very end where like the little boy is like peeing himself and he like has his eye twitching, but I didn't remember anything before that or leading up to that. I just remember that. So I was like, I know that there is a baby that's born. Okay, that's a baby, a human baby. Weird. I thought maybe it was going to be a doll baby. And then Tiffany's like, "We're not done here. There's another one coming, Chucky." And Chucky's like, "What?" And then I thought the next one was going to be like a full doll,
sort of nightmare.
right? Or just like a full doll. Like if that one's full human, then this one's full doll. No, it's also a human.
Yeah,
baby.
One's a boy and one's a girl.
Yeah. And so then that's when Chucky's like, ay, 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 because he's like, we gotta figure out Glen and Glenda. Maybe we can somehow use the amulet to split the personality into two different people, and everybody will be happy. And Chucky starts to like lose his cool at this point. He's like, what the fuck is going on in here? And he has the best line that's ever happened because he's also about to put himself into the driver, Tiff into Jennifer Tilly, and then Glenn into the baby. So it's this huge fucking crazy I don't know, ritual, I guess. And he says, if this was sorry, let me clear. Talking too fast. If this is what it takes to be human, then I'd rather take my chances as a supernaturally possessed doll. It's less complicated.
Yeah. Because the chaos of Tiff yelling, Glenda malfunctioning, trying to decide, Tilly screaming, Chucky is done. Also, the police show up like at this moment too.
After this, yeah, because they fight, right? Like she throws a knife at him, and yeah, there's like a bunch of death that happens in the room.
Cuts off his arm.
This is nuts, and I have a high tolerance for nuts. Which is also a good line.
That's a good line too, yeah.
Chucky wants to stay a doll, and Tiff wants to be Jennifer Tilly. Chucky,
but he also he has a pretty good, I'm here moment, which is like, I'm Chucky the killer doll. Yeah. I'm one of the most notorious slashers of all time.
Yeah. The most notorious one of the most notorious slashers in history. Yeah. Tiff fully leaves Chucky. Like, I'm taking the kids.
This is when he goes into like full abusive partner moment where he's like, nobody leaves me. And you're like, Chucky, you had so much growth in this movie. We were so happy for you.
Right there.
You're turning back into not even an incel, like a 1950s, like, I'm the man kind of. And you're like, oh God, gross.
Yeah. Stan gets free and takes the knife as Chucky's gonna stab. He finally tells her he loves her, but he doesn't. He says and dies. Has a very movie death.
The most underdeveloped character in all of cinema history. He's more underdeveloped in cinema history as Chucky is a notorious slasher killer of all time.
The antithesis.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to have Stan be somebody more like somebody from the past, but I think it's really funny to have him be so one-dimensional. He had nothing to do in this movie, but like,
the guy from the last Jason movie where he's like, my sister was killed here 1 year ago,
and then he it sucked. The thing too that Chucky was mad about was like, Tiff gets to be a famous actor. He doesn't want to just be a famous actor's chauffeur, which I thought was, I can understand that. He's like, I don't want to just be some limo driver when I can be a doll and live forever.
Which,
Respect.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, don't be so misogynistic while you're doing it, but I get it. Doll fight, I wrote. This is the point.
Doll fight.
We get Chucky and Tiff have a bit of a fight. She gets axed in the face for her goodwill. The police walk into a nightmare scene with all the dead people.
Wait, you're mixing up two things. You're mixing up two scenes.
No, the Chucky and kid doll fight doesn't happen until after this.
Okay.
I wrote doll fight because Tiff and Chucky have a bit of a battle.
But they fight in the hospital as well.
Oh.
The hospital is.
That's where she gets axed in the face. I think.
Yeah.
Which
I was like, reference to Jason, because he chops through the door like The Shining, and he puts his face up and he says, I can't think of this thing to say, and you're like, would it have been better if he said, "Here's Chucky"? I think it would have been better.
But here's something that was outlined to me in the credits that I noticed is he does the Chucky laugh instead, which is very iconic. So I thought
that's true, but he could have said, "Here's Chucky," and then laughed because he's like, "It's like the movie."
It's like the movie. All work and no play makes Chucky a dull boy. That's what he should have said.
Holy shit! That took 5 seconds of workshopping, and it's already better than what.
That actually would have been really good.
The police walk into a nightmare scene with all the dead people, babies, Jennifer Tilly tied up. And I guess she just told the police the dolls are to blame because they show her in the hospital like a minute later. And they're like, you're the person they got to play the lawyer. Whenever they cast a lawyer as like some like new actor or like basically a teenager, it always looks so off-putting.
It should have been Don Mancini.
That would have been great. Yeah,
that would have been good. Yeah,
or some other reference, some other.
Yeah, or like the guy who's always in the nightmare movies or something. You know, like another slasher icon. Somebody. It should have been somebody.
It should have been Kane Hodder.
It should have been Harvey Weinstein.
Jesus Christ. I was gonna say Quentin Tarantino, but I think you trumped me on that.
He's like, listen, you're not gonna get the babies, okay? Like, oh,
okay. That's right. The police, right. So she's gonna get institutionalized. Essentially, is what it seems like is gonna happen. And
well, they're like implying like, yeah, the babies are safe, you're safe, but we didn't say that you're psychologically sound to take the babies home, especially after that story you told us. And then you're like, oh yeah, the story of the killer dolls.
And the scene we walked into.
Yeah, there's like 10 dead bodies. There's goo everywhere. Goo being blood.
Yeah, not goo being.
And viscera.
Yeah.
And lots of viscera.
And so much seed.
So much seed. Just seed everywhere.
All the seed.
I thought it was implied that in this next scene when Tiff shows, so Tiff and Glen are under the bed, and she pulls out a syringe that's filled with like a white goo. It's supposed to be like some sort of like a knockout thing, but I thought that it was sedative. Thank you, a knockout thing.
It's some sort of knockout goo.
I thought it was
more seed.
I thought it was more seed of Chucky. And they were gonna do some weird.
I'm gonna put my seed in your blood.
Cow.
Yeah, I honestly had a moment where I was like, "Is she gonna just put more babies into her?"
Yeah, we need 2 more seeds of Chucky in you.
But they knock her out. Tiff. Sorry, I can't scroll.
She gets knocked out, and then the 2 dolls are there, and then the door gets knocked down by Chucky. Chucky being, the titular Chucky of the title.
Right.
He says his lines, and then he comes in and he asks Tiff a question. Yeah.
And then we get the final kung fu battle between Chucky and Glen Glenda, but Glen just stabs him in the face with an axe.
Well, this is when we also realize that he has not only studied the language of the Japanese, but the fighting style.
Yeah.
Or he watched The Matrix. I don't know. But it's a Matrix move. He does a high dive over top of Chucky, kicks him across the room. Chucky he does his classic "I've been kicked across the room" scream, and then he gets all his limbs chopped.
He chops all of his limbs off one by one.
I did want to say I think the head chop to Tiff may be a reference to Friday the 13th.
Yeah, the mask.
Yeah.
Especially if that doll still exists after, as we see that it does. So sometimes on the show, we don't have a sting for it or anything, but I like to wonder if like a moment in the movie can happen and the credits just roll. As soon as Chucky's parts are cut off, I'm like, credit roll. I don't know if there's any discussion that needs to go into that, but I thought that was very definitive as an ending. But we get a bit more. We get a 5-year time jump. Jennifer Tilly has 2 5-year-olds now, obviously the babies. She has the Tiff doll. Glenda, the daughter, is the housekeeper is talking about how Glenda is like a shitty kid and Glen is a good kid. So they got the evil in them. One of them does.
They got the evil in them.
And it looks like Tiff made it into Jennifer Tilly's body after all to sort of end the movie. But also Glen is in Glen's body, I guess. And then Chucky.
Well, no, the two she found a way to split the doll into 2 people, and she also has Tiff in her, I guess. Yeah.
Dumb.
At least partially. It makes me feel like the ritual partially worked, where she's got like Tiffany power and like energy and like some mentality, but she also has the doll there still as well, right? So is it maybe like a mixture of Jennifer Tilly and Tiff?
Or maybe Jennifer Tilly's in the doll and she doesn't want that doll to get out.
Oh my God.
See, this is a good spin-off.
Watch the Chucky television show to find out.
Watch Black Mirror to find out that one season where they're all getting their consciousness stuckness. That was words, I guess. Consciousness stuck in a Google Home. At any rate, that's the movie.
No, she kills her housekeeper. She beats her to death with a Tiffany doll.
Wait, what?
And then she goes outside and she's like,
"Oh yes,
Glen, there's a present here for you.
Right.
We don't know who it's from."
Okay.
And then Glen opens it and it's Chucky's arm.
I was like, Chucky doll?
After he pees himself again.
Yeah.
We start with the peeing, we end with the peeing.
It's weird though, because he does just look at the photograph of him and his dad and says like, "My dad did love me," right? So he has this sort of like resolution in himself where he's like, I remember my dad trying to get me to kill people and I don't need to do that anymore, but he did love me and that's why he did that. And then someone sent him a Chucky arm in the mail, which tried to attack him. And
he's like, I remembered it wrong.
Oopsies. He really didn't I chopped his limbs off. Hold on. Now there is season 2 of Chucky, and spoiler alert, Jason, plug your ears if you don't want to hear it.
I actually don't.
All right, maybe I just won't say it then. All right, I won't say it. Okay. Jason's getting all wormy over there. Like, I want to hear it, but I don't want to hear it.
I got 2 movies, and then I can fully digest this TV show, and I'm a TV person, so I actually don't want to know.
Okay, I won't ruin it for you.
Chucky.
Because I looked it up because I was curious, but I did look up something, and I was like, oh, interesting. Because I didn't watch any more beyond what you and I watched. Because I'm saving it for you, Jason.
I'm saving it for you. You just got to see a legitimate moment, Bee. But yeah, credits are good. The credit roll has basically shows the best of people's scenes as it shows their name. And during the credits also we got to the songs play again, those like style parodies of like Up in the Club and or In the Club, I guess it's actually called, and the Britney Spears one. And so do you guys want to play a quick game of you want to play a quick little game here before we get out of here?
Yeah, hit me with the game.
Sure. What's the game? In a second.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
Welcome back to the greatest game ever played, starring me, Chucky Newman. Chucky Newman's my name, and today we're going to be playing a game where all you have to do is guess 3 digits of a 5-digit number. The MPAA certificate rating is, of course, the number given to every movie from the 1920s on that signifies that a movie has been rated officially, rated as in R, PG-13, etc. So all you have to do, you'll each get 2 guesses. All you'll have to do is guess the 3 digits after the first 2 digits. And I'll give you the first 2 digits. The first 2 digits are 39. So from each of you, I just need a 3-digit number that comes after those first 2 digits. It is, of course, tradition on the show for the guests to go first. So, Bee,
So I'm just randomly picking numbers?
just give me the 3-digit number.
You figured it out really quickly.
Really quickly. Most people are like, what?
All right. 692.
39692. Steve, lower.
230.
39230. B, higher.
540.
39540. Steve, lower.
441. Ah, my heart.
Nope. Nobody's ever going to get
You
it.
telling me we didn't win again?
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
Wow.
Thanks for playing the greatest game in the history of games. With that, let's go on to our final thoughts.
It's time for our final thoughts.
So, with our final thoughts this week, I thought that it would be pretty... I'm also going to play this. I'm going to put this in the final thoughts portion.
If you had to pick one, what do you think the Home Alone of it all? When is the Home Alone of it all? Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone? I really gotta know. When is the Home Alone of it all? What is the Home Alone of it all? Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
So the Home Alone of it all is essentially the idea that in the movie Home Alone, the part of the movie you're going to see it for is when the thieves start thieving and you get to see all the traps. We've sort of expanded that idea to other movies. What's the part of the movie you're going to go see? So I thought it would be interesting this week to, during our final thoughts, just give a little Home Alone of it all as well. And like I said at the start, our guest always goes first. So your final thought can consist of, obviously, a final thought, some sort of rating, and then your must-see part of the movie, I guess is the best way to put it.
Sure. I mean, it was a movie. It happened. That was there. And no, politically, it surprisingly holds up fairly well, considering the content and the time period it was made. And there were some weirdly heartwarming moments in a movie about murderous dolls. It was not my favorite Chucky movie, but it is definitely dumb fun. And I think it does what it's meant to do. The whole scene with Jennifer Tilly and the head, I think, is my favorite. We all love Jennifer Tilly and head. Put the two together, you know?
You got a winning formula.
So, if you could, do you want to give this a rating?
I'm going to say a solid 4 to 6, depending on how inebriated you are.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I think it's a situational 6.
Situational 6 out of 10?
Yeah.
And your Home Alone of it all is the scene.
The head scene. The Jennifer Tilly head scene.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Bee. Thank you so much. Steve, what's your final thought and rating for Seed of Chucky?
Well, my Home Alone of it all is probably the moment where they're tucking Glenda into bed and making a promise to one another that they will no longer kill for the sake of their child. That sort of sets the stakes for the movie. This movie is light on stakes. There's not a lot kind of going on. There's just a whole bunch of characters that are interacting in this kind of clusterfuck of stuff. And that's when we sort of get an understanding of who they are and what they're trying to do. And I kind of wish that they pushed that a little bit more. It would have been more fun, I think, if the entirety of the movie was them both killing and having to hide it from one another in creative ways. Rather than creative kills, it's how do we make it so that Tiff and Chucky are hiding their murders from one another, which is a funny concept, but from the moment that it's introduced to us to the moment that it's revealed that they're not actually not killing, and it's kind of relatively short. I think it would have been funny to run with that a little bit more, but I think that's my Home Alone. When it comes down to the movie itself, I think it's quite good. I think this is Don Mancini finally being able to experiment with his own brand of storytelling using the tools that he created. And I think it's great that he is able to continue to this day to use Chucky as a storytelling tool, not just, let's tell a story about Chucky. Let's tell a story that Chucky's involved with, and how do we make that interesting? And I hope that he has the opportunity to continue doing it until he's done. As much fun as it would be to see him do something else, I think that he is Chucky. He is part of he's Tiffany, he's Glen, he's all these characters. It's all like a little part of him. And that is heartwarming to me outside of the storytelling in this movie. It's great. It's so cool. And I'm happy for him. I hope that he's happy. I don't know. I've never, really delved into too many interviews with him to see how he feels about it, but that's an exciting prospect, I think, to any person who's created something that they really care about. So it's really cool that he gets to continue doing that to this day. The movie itself, I do like it a lot. I agree. I don't think it's my favorite Chucky, but I do think it's up there. Like, out of the ones that are the most fun to watch, this is one of the most fun ones to watch. It's goofy, it's crazy, it's weird. The performances are fun. The cameos alone are fun to watch, and the references are fun to watch. If I had to give this a review, though, if I had to give this an actual rating, I think it would be the choice between having to be a human or a doll who lives in infamy forever. And if this is what it takes to be human, then I'd rather take my chances as a supernatural possessed doll because it's easier, less complicated.
Thank you, Steve. That's fantastic. Mine is pretty short and sweet. My Home Alone of it all was basically the end sequence in the house with all the chaos. Basically from when Joan walks in the door and it triggers the alarm, her getting thrown over the banister, the baby's coming, and then right to the end, the police walk into this, like, the worst crime scene ever, because we kind of glossed over the fact that Chucky also, like, opens a cabinet and 3 bodies fall out, it was crazy. There's blood everywhere. This movie was actually insane and funny. Not like so bad it's good, but a genuine laugh out loud comedy. Sort of has the same vibe as the TV show, and I believe now I only have 2 movies until I'm caught up and I can get into the show. It's a really fun horror comedy and had a lot of great moments. Listen, I gave this movie knee-jerk reaction. I gave this movie a 4 out of 5.
Wow.
I mean, that's a good
4 out of 5.
Yeah. Knee-jerk reaction. I finished the movie and I was like, that was great. And
listen, 75% is a pass, but it's not a great pass. So you know what? I think it's fine.
I'm notoriously, like, weird about my rating scale, and sometimes I rate with my heart, and sometimes I rate with my rage.
With your fart.
With my fart. This is a comedy podcast, farting. But I think that this movie is, like, I love movies that genre bend, and this really was able to take what you think is going to be just like a straight up slasher, and there's not a whole lot of slashing in it, just like funny moments and weird stuff happening. So I really just wanted to see what insane thing was going to happen next. I give this
That
movie...
warms my heart, man. It really does. I'm really glad you like this movie. I wasn't sure how you'd feel about it, but I'm really glad you liked it.
Don't get me wrong, it's dumb as fuck. It's so stupid. But
but you're allowed to like dumb stuff.
It plays into its stupidity so well. It's so like self-aware that it turns it into like a good gem of a movie, you know? Mm-hmm. I want to watch this at Halloween every year now. It's like my Scrooged, but for Halloween. I give this movie a how does Chucky come back this time? Who cares?
How did you spell come is the real question.
C-U-M.
Oh, God.
For Seed of Chucky. Seed of Chucky.
Disgusting.
Jeez. Sorry. But that's our show for this week. Thank you for everybody that came through the chat. What's up, Dourif? Sorry I didn't shout you out. We had a pretty good some pretty good people come through, and not a lot of chatting this week, but a lot of people coming through, and that's what I like to see. Steve, did I forget anything? Do I have everything sort of squared away?
Are we supposed to announce the thing or not? Yes.
Well, we are now a part of the United Federation of Podcasts. They have a lot of great podcasts on the network. We are now a part of that network. I don't have the stuff built for it yet, but you can find shows on that network such as X-Rated and X-Man podcast, Trivial Debates. You can find Hold Up, a movie podcast that does it basically the same as we do, but they do 3 movies at a time. There's other stuff. There's the Super Mater Brothers podcast. I think that's reality TV.
They have a lot of different stuff.
There's Iman Albums, I think it's called, like a music podcast. We're part of that now. We're going to go there, and we're going to be very nice, and we're going to be very good with them.
No, stop doing that impression. I don't like it.
Sorry. The thing that I wanted to also say is you can find us on all social media across the entire internet and the entire web. At Hey, Did You See This One? Pretty much everywhere you can find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. B, do you have anything you want to plug? Is there anything that you want to promote this week?
Nothing in particular. I'm between doing really cool things right now. But you can follow me on social media and be the first person to hear about all the cool stuff I'm doing. I'm Overlayer B everywhere.
That's great. Other than that, we might have to help B because we didn't brief her on this, and this is sort of a thing that I do often by accident. But B, there's a very important question that needs to be asked. Could you ask that question for us?
It's the name of the show.
The name of the show is Hey, Did You See This One?
You want me to ask what the name of the show is?
No, God damn it. Just...
What's the name of the show?
There's a very important question that needs to be asked.
The name of the show is a question.
I'm so confused.
Oh my God. This is my bad. Just to say, hey, did you see this one?
Just say, hey, did you see this one?
Yeah.
Oh, you were asking me what the name of the show was.
Yeah, because the guest says that, God damn it, I did this.
He says, there's a very important question that needs to be asked every week. And B, would you be so kind as to ask that question?
What's the name of the show?
No, then you say, hey, did you see this one?
This is like me failing who's on first.
Yeah, no, we all failed who's on first because I didn't brief you at the top of the show that I do this. So
you need to add this to your briefing. Jason.
I'm going to right now. In fact, B,
I'm too neurodivergent for this. Damn it.
Me too.
There's a question we ask each and every week. Would you like to ask that question for us?
Hey, did you see this one?
You're not the first and you won't be the last. Do you have any fucking people? Oh my God. It's like they don't even know what show they're coming on. That sounds like I'm a little bitter, but I'm not.
I mean, but also it's a weird, obscure thing that if you don't know what's coming, then you don't know what to do.
I know the name of the show.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what you were asking.
I think it was very funny that you're like, what's the name of the show? It's like, no. God damn it. We're almost there. Well, we're all a happy family full of dolls. So, let's all get back to our business. The business of Ade Due Dembala. Give me the power I bring to you.